All right. See how everything's going here. Looks like that's showing up right. Okay, good, good. All right. See if I can pop up here. Yep, I'm looking all right. All right, good. Well, we'll give people a few minutes to show up, and then we'll get going here. So we're gonna do some Prometheus stuff tonight. Mess around in there, and see what we get done. I will show you guys some stuff before we get going on that, though. And yeah, we'll be good. We will be good. Let me start out with stuff I was going to show you guys while people are still wandering in here. I wanted to show you guys that we do have a Discord. That's always there. But we have a whole bunch of events coming up, and you can go in there and look at the events on, it's going to be August 3rd and August 4th. And we are just going to have kind of all-day engineering. It's going to be a virtual conference, if you will. And I got different people coming. I'm not the only one talking. Most of them are other people, in fact. And they are all data analytics engineers, senior site reliability engineer, director of engineering, AWS solutions architect, professional, and a whole bunch of other things. A guy who's almost done with his doctorate in economics, but also he's come talk to us a few times about data analytics. Jared, who just kind of runs everything Google Analytics related, and then Sending, who works for one of the big Mang type companies as well. So we've got a pretty good size amount of engineering topics coming up there as well. So what we're going to do is I'm getting ready for my PCA, which is the Prometheus Certified Associate. So I've been just putting together some training on it, and if anybody wants to kind of work on it and study with me and kind of, I don't know, just hang out while I'm doing it, that's what we're going to do. All right, Less Than T, how's it going? Sure we'll get some people over on the YouTube side as well. But here's what we're doing. So about the PCA, it's the Prometheus Certified Associate, right? It's from the Linux Foundation. It's $250, but they've got it on sale right now for $175. I'm not trying to sell anybody on it. I mean, if you just want to learn about it, we're going to be going way more in depth than this test goes. But the number of questions is 60. You got 90 minutes to do them. It's online. You got to get 45 correct. It's greater than 75%. And you get one free retake. So that's not that bad. I mean, it's not a hands-on one like the other ones. But when we're getting ready for this and when we're working on this right now, we're going to be hands-on. So that's an important thing. All right, so about it. There are 5 different areas. They are all about 20% each, although the PromQL has a little bit more. And because that one has a little bit more, when you compare it with all the other ones, this is the one that we would spend our most hands-on time out of. Yeah, Robodon, that's not too bad. And plus, I tend to do, I know this is about myself, I tend to do a lot better on just regurgitation type, like CISSPs and CCSPs, those type of tests. I do better on those than hands-on. Which is funny because I've been an engineer for a long time, so you would think, oh, I'm just going to go blow away hands-on. Takes me more time to do those. I don't know why. But here's what we're going to be doing. Here's the things that we'll be talking about and some of the stuff that we'll be building for these labs, right? We'll talk about each of these different pieces and get through what we get through. I don't know if we're going to get, I don't think we're going to get through all this today, guys. In fact, part of this is me not really timing out, but kind of just seeing how long it takes me to talk through and work through some of the stuff that I put on here. So there's that. All right. So anyways, prepping your hands-on environment. You need something to get hands-on. I think you could just, maybe some people can just watch and do stuff without, some people can just watch and remember everything. Most of us aren't like that. So here's your options for your hands-on practice. And somebody's going to ask, do you have this somewhere where I can get it? Yeah, it's right here in our Discord. This list and some of the other pieces of the lists are right down here in our Discord under Prolog projects. So the most recent projects are all your PCA stuff. I will eventually be putting this slide deck up there too for people that just want the slide deck. But all of the things that I'm showing here, the server build, the Docker build, and the home lab build, any of those things that people want will be there. And then the study guides and the free training on it will be there as well. Okay. Yeah, and Robodom, I'm a big fan of just going through the bullet points and making sure I can talk to each piece of a test, because if I can talk to it and understand the pieces of it, it makes it better for me. All right, so anyways, let's click on one of these. We've got Killer Coda free environment. Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to click on that. you can just trust that that is right here. That is the lab that I have for Prometheus right here on Killer Code. Killer Code is a free site. If you don't want to build out your own lab worth of systems, you know, and you don't want to go through that process, that's fine. You can do Prometheus right here. That's this first one. And we'll mess with this here in a minute. We'll get Prometheus up and running. Actually, we'll do it right now, just so I can show you guys how simple this is. You can have Prometheus up in pretty much the time that we take to talk about this. We're going to get Grafana up first, just to have Grafana up as well. Although, strictly speaking, Grafana is not needed for Prometheus. But we'll get Grafana up. Boom. A little bit more. We need Grafana up to go to the next part of the lab, so that's why I'm doing it. But anyways, we'll get our keys down for the repositories. It's all stuff we do in these labs all the time, right? So get our keys for the repository, sign the repository, and then download and make sure that everything's good with the version of Grafana that we install, right? We'll turn on Grafana and make sure it's working as soon as it comes up. I wonder if my dark music makes me more, when I'm listening to like the darker soundtrack I have for, I wonder if that makes me more impatient. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Get Grafana running, and then we go and we look, and Grafana's not listening yet, but Grafana takes 10, 15 seconds to put all its stuff in the right spot, so you got to kind of sit here. Hey, SK, how's it going? We are just going through the PCA type topics, and we're getting a Prometheus instance up so that we can do Prometheus stuff. There, it's listening. So we'll come down here. We can set up the Grafana piece, but we don't need it right now. And it says that we're going to need Prometheus and we need Node Exporter up. So we're just going to run through and do the Node Exporter real quick. So make directory Node Exporter, download Node Exporter, get it started, right? This is an option for a lab for you. Go in there, make sure it's started, and then turn it on, and you'll see the scrapable information, yes, for Prometheus. So that's scrapable. You're going to want that because if you're going to be doing some of these lab pieces, you want data. Data should be loaded up for Prometheus to do stuff. So let's do the Prometheus part last. Add user Prometheus, make a directory for it, copy everything down, change the ownership so that it's not the root owner. That's good and important because we're using the Prometheus user as opposed to the root user to start things. Here's our scrape config. This is a very simple config. We'll come back to this later. And when you're doing the lab, you'll want to come back and look at some of the global config pieces that are for everything, and then the individual scrape configs pieces. Also, if you have any alert manager configurations you want to set up, because that is part of the test. Okay? So when you're touching all the pieces, you do want to touch those pieces. We'll copy in the service. We'll start the service up. Make sure that that's working, and then we'll verify that Prometheus is running. Good. Okay. Now, to look at Prometheus running, we can click this button, and there's a Prometheus instance. By the way, you can look at Prometheus in dark mode if you like. I am going to be doing Prometheus in my home lab, so I already have my home lab stood up, and so I don't need to be in this instance. But when you're doing these labs and getting ready, you're doing a weird etcd lab right now. Oh, nice. Yeah, Turtlebeard, if you're saving etcd off and bringing it back, that is something you will do on your CKA. And I can't tell you specific questions, but I can tell you right now, etcd processes and restoring of etcd is very important to CKA type exams. So there are things about that, and the pieces that you're going to be doing, you need to know those for that test. So that's very important. And know where to reference it from too, which is also very important. Okay, so we've got a Prometheus instance up here. I should be able to come here. If I go back here and I look at any one of these, and I've set my scrapes up right, and I go look at this, and I were to grab any of these stats right here. So if I were to do node VM stat page fault, right, and I were to come here and I were to drop that in right here and execute it, I should find that, yes, for that instance localhost. And I go, yes. And then I could start to group them up and say, for the last 5 minutes, right, What does that look like for the last 5 minutes? Can you show me? And oh, here's all the times it's scraped for the last 5 minutes. And then I can start to aggregate these up and do things within Prometheus, and I'll start to understand what my queries are, right? Oh, SK, you're on the train to the office? Nice, okay. Nice. All right. We can also check on Ranger. Look at Ranger. He looks real tired. All right, well, anyways, back to here. That was the server build-out lab. You want to do the server build-out lab if you're doing anything where you're going to change around Prometheus in the configuration level. What I mean by that is if you want to restart and stop the Prometheus service, you're going to need to be in either here, the server build, or down in the home lab. One of those two places. If you do this Docker build one, there's nothing wrong with this lab. This Docker build out lab right here, perfectly fine. It's also down in the Discord, like I mentioned. The only thing about this one is that you won't be able to go in and configure things because you're getting them through a Docker. You're doing a Docker compose up to get all your components. So you won't have nearly as much control as you do in some of these other ones. All right, so that's important for you to know. And then, yeah, this home lab one, if you have a system that you can just stand up and then you just want to stand up this instance here of Grafana. Oh, yeah, SK. Yeah, I use Prometheus all over the place, yeah. Professionally, I run Prometheus on 1,200 nodes, about 1,260 nodes in one cluster, 5,000 nodes in another cluster, and then I'm building it into another few thousand node cluster that I'm building right now as well. So yes, I do professionally use the Prometheus quite a bit, yeah. Although most of the stuff I do, I just get the data flowing. I'm less concerned with the building of the have the things we do, and we have the things we want to get better at, right? So the question here was, what is Prometheus used for? So Prometheus is a time series database that you use to scrape data in an environment and then feed that data up to Grafana. You can alert with it too. Prometheus can alert. Yeah, we'll get to all that. Absolutely. But this is, strictly speaking, this is my kind of review to get ready for the Prometheus Certified Associate, which is a Linux Foundation cert. We went over this stuff. Here's the things that we're going to talk about. But yeah, this shows you some of the things it does. It can alert. It can, you can know why you alert things. But there's a tremendous amount of clients that this can scrape data out of. Clients on pretty much any... I mean, we can go down to it, but there's a lot of clients. We'll get to that here in a little bit. All right, so anyway, so there's the thing. And strictly speaking, like I said, this is not a hands-on test. This test is you go in and you brain dump a bunch of information. We call it multiple guess. We call it, whatever. It's the lowest form of knowledge, right? It's just regurgitating glossary-type information. That being said, though, we take the test seriously. We want to learn how it works, so we get our hands-on labs, right? Okay, so that's what we're doing here. I'm putting together my document. I got my documentation put together. Now I'm going through it. In my home lab, I use Prometheus. So if we go back to, there's Ranger check. Here's my Prometheus instance. This is the one I just stood up in the lab here. But in my Prometheus instance, I can do any of these same things like we just did. And I can go look at a table, and I can see all of these things, and I can see my node CPU seconds. And then I can say, well, for the last, let's go like 1 hour, right? And then it'll start to aggregate up these different pieces from my different nodes. SK, no. So in the Discord, we have all of the lab stuff, but this doc, strictly speaking, is not up there yet. This one is still. Let's call this one still in working mode. Look, we're getting. I can see all of them here, but it'll start showing me the ones that it's collecting soon. Okay, we can wait for the page. I asked for a pretty big query here, right? So there we go. Now it's grouped these all up. So for any one node, I'm going to get the value and the timestamp, right? Okay, the value of what we were looking at and the timestamp, and then I can... There's all kinds of things we can do with this, but just suffice it to say, you're not normally going to be querying Prometheus directly. Have I been saying Grafana? Prometheus directly, but you will be understanding the queries so that you can build them into the tools that will query out of this time series database. All right, so some of you might be back here on this one, and that's a real small set of data, which is good. And some of you might be over on any of these other labs. So, all right, so that's where we're going. So the first part of this is observability. We're going to talk about metrics. We've talked about metrics before as engineers. Why do we want to get metrics? Then we want to understand logs and events, because there are logs and events that can come out of Prometheus and tell us things about how the system's working, how it's reporting, how it's tracking things, all that kind of stuff. We'll learn about tracing and spans, and some of the stuff we're going to have to go read about a little bit and all that kind of stuff, but we'll see it. We'll see push versus pull methodology, and Prometheus wants to pull data. It wants to go out and query for data. Pushing data to Prometheus is never the preferred method, just so you guys know. Pushing data to Prometheus from something can happen, but there's a bunch of reasons they don't want it to happen. One is polling, seeing if things are there, is a very effective up-down measure. So you're always checking systems, and it's almost like it's just going out there and going like this and feeling around and feeling that the services are still up, so it's good. Pushing, when you push a metric, even if you never push that metric again, the time series database will always keep it. So that's kind of one of the things that they say. And then there's service discovery. How do we tell it to go look for things? And then the basics of service level. That's going to be your service level agreements, your service level indicators, and your service level. I forget what the O is. I want to say that's can't remember. We'll get there when we get there, right? This is why we're doing it. All right. So I got to add to this, but there's a counter, a gauge, a histogram, and a summary. Those are the four major things that Prometheus can keep track of data. Objectives, yeah, service level. Yeah, I was doing that to test you guys, and only Ellipses was paying attention, so that's good. But yeah, we've got counters, gauge, histogram, summaries. We sometimes assume things to be monotonic functions, which means that they tend to be only increasing or decreasing sets of data. That's what a monotonic function is, right? We've got jobs and instances. Jobs are collections of instances, and then instances are any endpoint that you can scrape. That's called an instance. So if we go look real quick, if we go look down here, we get to our little Prometheus here, and we go here to targets. Any one of these endpoints here is an instance, right? And I can go click on it and look at all this tasty data that I can get from one of my internal machines here. And then jobs are collections of instances. So any endpoint that you can scrape is called an instance, and then jobs are collections of instances. My endpoints, by the way, can have multiple instances on them of different things that are being scraped. But we also define these in my home lab. I'll pull this up here. We are, bounce out of there. Go up to my Prometheus box here. And in the Prometheus box, let's see, Prometheus, Prometheus.yaml. In my Prometheus, here are my job names and then the different things that I want to scrape for these different jobs, right? So here's my job name, Prometheus, and then here's configurations, another job name for Prometheus node, and then another job name for Prolog lab scrape. So those are my labs that are coming out of here. So any instance can be a host, an app hosted on a host, and yet another instance. An app hosted on a host, another instance, yeah. SK, I think that's probably accurate. I've never looked at them like this. Like these definitions, I've always looked at them like this. So this is one of the things where I probably need to align myself more with the way Prometheus looks at things. I've always just looked at things, because look, they call them right here, Prometheus nodes and then lab scrapes, and they call them endpoints. So I just trust that this thing is calling it what it's supposed to be. But look right here, how it says up. It can tell me that it's up because it scraped it in the last few seconds. And Prometheus is trying to scrape every few seconds. Here's a scrape duration. Here's the last scrape. If we were to update this, we would see the new scrape. So I just kind of go off of this. But this, according to this, is an instance. is any endpoint that you can scrape. It's called an instance. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's one of these things. Well, it's the same thing, right? Naming things is always the hardest things for people. But for me, I know that this is an endpoint because it's an endpoint right here. And we can go scrape a bunch of different stuff out of here. Look, I got different labels on here. Some are Team Dungeon, some are Team Infra. And that depends to me in my organization, in my home lab, what I'm doing with them. Are they a dungeon for anybody to use? Or are they one of my actually infrastructure servers that I want to track and those kind of things, right? So we can look at all the nodes. We can see if any are unhappy. We can expand them all and expand everything out. Even if we had closed it down before, we can collapse all and only see the things that we kind of want to see. So there's a good amount of information here, and then I've got different scrape pools from my configuration. These are the same configurations here. All of these are the same configurations that you get out of this right here. So there's my Prometheus node, my Prolog lab scrape, and then everything else in here. I've got a very vanilla configuration. In fact, as I do this, I'm probably going to be adding some stuff to my alert, my alerting, and get a little better at this. I'd like to get that to send out to, we might have to use a third-party tool, but I'd like to get the alert manager to send out to Discord, right? We have other things that alert to Discord, so why couldn't this alert to Discord? And then I'll put some of you guys on call and make you guys log in and fix my stuff. I think some people would actually probably like that, because you get to feel like you're dealing it with a blob, one of those Bob Blursky situations, right? Maybe if a node goes high, you got to go figure out what's going on in your red or blue dungeons, depending on which group you belong to, right? So, anyways, I gotta update this page. So, actually, hold on. I got my notes over here, right? So, notes. Make sure you update the metrics page. By the way, this probably answers the question of why I haven't updated this yet. Well, it's not like completely ready yet for people, right? I mean, make sure you update the metrics page. I'm not gonna do like page numbers, but if I was doing this like at work, I'd probably put the page numbers in there. Oh, Jake Sek, you just started a systems engineering job today. That's awesome. That's really good. You've been around for a while, I think, Jake Sek, but how was that process? I don't know if you mind typing it up or not. If not, you can tell us in the Discord later. Because I like hearing people getting new jobs and stuff. That's kind of there. Also, it's funny, Fisherman's not around, and nobody's mentioned the fact that I've had both a shave and a haircut. Normally that gets mentioned if Fisherman's around, but I guess nobody noticed or cared. I looked like I was homeless before my wife cut my hair yesterday. So, anyways, all right. So logging on events, you can turn on query log to write all queries to a server in a file. That's good. This is Prometheus sending out its own logs. It's not logging to Prometheus, right? And then you can set up in the normal Etsy Prometheus.yaml. So let's go look at that. We can add a query log file to send things to. So all queries that hit Prometheus, all those queries that I've been putting in, will be showing up in this log file. So let's do this real quick. Let's take this over here. And it says that I should be able to, I just vi Prometheus.yaml. I'm going to go set background equal to dark so you guys can actually read that, right? Because that was way too dark. And let's go see. It's a global configuration. I don't have anything about this up here. But I should be able to, in my global configuration here, if I wanted to. Let's check our numbers here. All right. I'm going to hit O. I'm going to say query log file is equal to var log. And what do they say to use? We could use Prometheus query log. That's fine. Var log Prometheus query. Oops. I started to like type queso or something. QUERY .log, right? So real quick, let's take this value. We're just going to keep in our little paste buffer for a second. We got everything else. Whoops, that's not lined up. Definitely needs to be lined up. All right, good. Because this is a YAML file, guys. YAML doesn't play not being indented. All right, escape :WQ. Now, A lot of you have been around for our system stuff before. When I update a config file, does it affect the service at all while it's running? In like most modern Linuxes and most process type systems, no, right? So it's cd to var log. You might be like, well, I know what Scott's doing here. Do I have a Prometheus in here? So we got to make dir Prometheus, right? And then we got to cd into Prometheus, and then we've got to make dir, we got to touch rather, that job name, and the job that we had right here, or rather it was query.log. But I want to show you guys something real quick. Let's ls-l here and cd up one and ls-l on Prometheus. ls-ld. Is the Prometheus user that runs that service going... So, is the Prometheus user that runs that service... Let me get the question out. Is the Prometheus user that is not in any groups going to be able to write to that log file or that directory that I just made as the root user that is set at 755 and the file itself is set at... Where's he at? 644. Is that gonna be able to write there, that process? If I restart this service right now, it's gonna start writing to that log file, or is it gonna break because it doesn't have the permissions? It can see that file, but it will not be able to write to that file. Does that make sense to everybody? This is the kind of stuff that we have to think through as systems engineers. So what's the easiest fix? I'm in this directory. There's the easiest fix for me is probably to just make that whole directory path there, which is all Prometheus stuff, owned by the Prometheus user. That's probably the easiest thing. So I can just do ch own -r capital R Prometheus, right? And the group, we'll make the group Prometheus too, right? So it'll be user group. And then that's going to be applied against everything Prometheus. So a chown will change ownership. So all this ownership here that was, we were doing our ls-l, see how it's root. Root is the user owner, and this is the group owner here. We're going to just wipe everything down in there. Now when we do those ls-lds, it's Prometheus. And when we do our just a regular ls-l, it'll show you that the file in there is also owned by Prometheus, and the Prometheus user can write to it with this explicit permission right here, right? And I'm not trying to be sneaky here. I know not everybody here is a systems admin, a systems engineer. So you're probably watching this going, oh yeah, it was all going to work. No, I assure you this was about to break because my logs weren't going to be able to write. Hetanis, yeah. Nick, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Yeah, I wouldn't call myself amazing, but I'm a guy who does this stuff, and I want you guys to be able to do it as well. So... aspiring sysadmins, good, Robodom. Although we want to get you into security too, right? A little bit. All right. Oh, by the way, what do we got to do last? System CTL status Prometheus. It's been up for a long time, since the 9th of January this year, and we're going to restart him. System CTL restart Prometheus. That should restart. I should be able to cd down into Prometheus. And if I do an ls-l on that query log, it's still got nothing in it. So let's do this real quick. Let's say while true, do ls-l on query log, right? The whole thing we just did. Sleep 2, done. So it's just going to every 2 seconds do that. Now let's come back over here, because there's no queries being written right now, right? Do you guys agree with that? There's no queries, so why would there be anything in the file? So let's come back over here. Let's go to our status. Let's go to our... graph. We'll go to graph, and we'll go take one of those things that we had from before. If I can't remember it, which I can't, I'll go. I can't remember anything, guys. Let's just go grab. We'll get this go memstats heap alloc bytes. I don't even know what that is. Right? Sounds like something that a Klingon would say. But we'll go to graph here, and we'll hit this, and we'll execute that. And there's now been a search, and then over here, look at that. Look at all these increasing numbers of the file. Now, that's just the size of the file, guys. What would be better, because some of you are probably like, oh my God, this guy, I can't believe he's doing a He's just watching the file get bigger. Watch, it's going to do it again. As opposed to just watching the file. Some of you are probably like, why aren't you just watching the file, dude? All right, I can go in that directory, right? I can do a tail-F on query log, hit enter a few times, and I'll do a query against that node. And here we go. There was an HTTP request from this client that was 11.65, which is my home. This is my machine I'm on here. I didn't even do this. Like, I didn't curl it from one of my other machines. The method was get. The path was API v1 query. The params were the time. It gave some default time resolution that it wanted. And then it said, what was I looking for? And I was looking for, the query was to go memstats heap alloc bytes, whatever those are. Now, what if I change these and I say, I want it for the last 5 minutes, right? And I hit that. 5 minutes, sorry. Gotta do 5 minutes. Now, oh, look, that query immediately showed up right there. But this is just showing queries that are going into Prometheus. So where I'm going with that is this logging, some of you guys have been with me before and been on streams and stuff and been like, well, wait, that logging you could throw out to Loki, and then you could verify through Loki and through Grafana how many people are hitting your Prometheus at any given time. Yeah, we could. We could see if there were any long-running, like, look, right here. Here's the start of it and the end of it. So that's a pretty quick, and by the way, guys, I've talked about this before. I am no programmer, right? I claim no great control of any language to be a professional coder, but I can code my way out of a paper bag. And I happen to know that that's the most common ISO 8601 style format of timestamp. You will deal with this the rest of your career. I do not care what you do in IT. I tell you guys this, and I pulled this up before and showed you guys, the wiki ISO 8601. This is like one of the most important things that you could understand for really anything that you're doing, because you will run into that ISO 8601 as a timestamp. Literally, it's the standard for all API calls, so you're always going to run into it. But anyway, so my point is I could do a quick little bit of math and see how long this query took, right? Here's the start of the query, the end. Yep. So anyway, so there's a bunch of stuff there. And I could use that to start figuring out, is my Prometheus having problems? Am I hitting? Because, you know, if something starts to slow down in all this, we need to know where it's at. I mean, we can also have node exporter on the Prometheus and, you know, all these other things. But the point is, we have that. So look, what did we just do? We went through and we changed the way logging happens inside of our Prometheus instance. They're not going to make you do that on this test. But they might ask you which of these is the one that's going to set in a log file. So in my Etsy Prometheus, prometheus.yaml, I don't have the A in my YAML in there, but query log file, we set it to that, and then we saw as we did queries, it went to a log file. That was it. You can verify it's turned on by metrics exposed when it's active. So we verified it was turned on by going and watching the file. And then log formats in JSON. I would agree with that. That was good. And then you can log rotate with normal Linux log rotate facilities. So if I wanted to, check this out. I'm in this server, right? Let's go back to like simple Linux stuff for a second. This is, sometimes I'm showing you guys, like right now we're going through Prometheus stuff, but everything's touching a Linux box. This is why it's so important to know Linux, is you're going to be in a Linux server, right? So I've got this log. I know where it is, you know, and if I can't remember it, which I'm telling you guys, I never can remember things, I just throw stuff in my notepad, right? Because notes are cheap. Now I can go reference it later. And typically, like if I wasn't working on this one screen, I only have this one screen right here to show you guys things, but I have multiple screens when I'm working, and I got multiple screens over here. Got some of you guys are there. Yeah, so a log rotation is this. SK, the logs will fill up over time. That log will eventually just grow. And at that, and with only me on it, it might take years for that to even hit 10 megs. But with a whole company and processes hitting that, and queries going against it coming out of Grafana and all these other things, that's going to be a lot higher, right? You're going to get a lot more queries. So we need to rotate logs. We can compress logs. We can do all kinds of things with logs. Let's go look at it. So CD to Etsy, the most popular place for it is logrotate.d, right? And here are, oh, look at this. I've got all these places I can steal stuff from. I don't even have to remember it. So let's go grab one of these that we want to steal. One that's very common is our syslog. So let's just our syslog. And here, it tells me with our syslog, it's going to take all of these files here, and it's going to rotate them and keep 4 copies. It's going to rotate them weekly. If it's missing, it's okay. If it's not empty, if it's empty, it's not going to do anything. Yeah, oh, by the way, for people that do want to take this test, it's still up on the Linux Foundation for 40% off. So I think I put here that it's $250, but it's only $175 right now for people that want to do that. So, all right. That's true, yeah. And then here's our normal Linux log rotate functionality. So all I would do is I would copy this. I would just steal this rsys log. I would call it, I would just go like this. I would copy rsys log to Prometheus, right? I would take my Prometheus. I would delete all these because I don't need them in the Prometheus one. Move it down. I might even still have it. Nope, don't have it saved. Come right here. Var log Prometheus. Query .log, and we'll rotate it every 4. And let's say daily. Maybe I want to do daily. There's a bunch of keywords. You can go Google all the keywords and stuff. And once you make one, you don't really have to do anything again. When I'm done and I want to post rotate it, I can call anything here. Or if I don't want to post rotate it, I can just skip that. So you might say, well, what's a post rotate? Sometimes if a thing, like with our syslog for sure, if it's always writing into a file and the file handle is always held open, if you delete the file, it doesn't get removed from the disk. It just gets held open until all the processes to it are gone. So one of the things we do in log rotate is we almost always have something right at the end that just like hups the process. It kills it and restarts it. And that's what that was doing. It was restarting the rsyslog at the end. We could do that with Prometheus if we wanted to as well. Or I might say my Prometheus instance being up is more important. I'll leave it up and maybe I'll have some other process kill it. But just know that it depends how the file is held open. And it depends. Yeah, so it's a behavior thing that you're going to have to test out. It's one of those, I got it down underneath here, going by one test is worth 1,000 expert opinions. You got to go play with it. But you do not need to restart a log rotate service on all log files, especially if it's just getting written to. Like my Clam antivirus stuff that runs every night and it runs for like 3 to 4 hours on all my servers and does that stuff. It doesn't have to do that. Yeah, Apollo, you don't have to, but a lot of this stuff you don't need the training. You could just go to Killer Coda and man, almost all this stuff is just we can't give up the FD then. This file you copied. Oh, Suresh, it'll just rotate in there. Hold on. So the question is, where does it go? I'm not gonna change any of this. I don't need to change anything. But by the way, nothing has to restart for something in there to matter. So I'm just gonna get rid of that. Let's go back to where we were. CD dash will bring me to my last directory. And the question was where, what happens to those files? So remember how there were 4 copies of everything? Here's 4 copies being kept for this alternatives.log. There's the log 1. There's the 2, the 3, and the 4 being gzipped to compress them down. So there was a compression in there. There was all this other stuff. Hey, Akshunyam, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. It thinks I said action, yeah. Okay, well, that's what it thinks your name is. I'm just going to call you EK because that's too hard to remember all that. I never pronounce anybody's name right anyways. I swear I got some kind of reading problems in general, but all right, anyway, so let's do this. Let's move that out of the way. That's just us. Like, we're not even doing Prometheus stuff there. We're just doing normal Linux stuff, right? But the point is you can log rotate and that kind of stuff if you see that log file getting big and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So we come down, and then there's tracing and spans. So trace represents a whole journey of a request or action as it moves through all nodes in a distributed system. Good. And spans are an operation of or work taking place on a service, web server responding to an individual request or function. So we have in the Discord, I think, so there's a free training here. Let's pop up this free training. And this free training is from training.promlabs. So, feel free to look them up. Again, that's also on the Discord. And their training just kind of looks like this, right? And it's got just a bunch of pages of stuff. But let's see if we can find their... Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I want to see if we can find their... They've got a really pretty good look at... I don't see it here. They might not have it in here. Let's see. They don't have it in here. Okay. Then we can find it on the documentation. So trace versus spans. I want to show you. There's this drawing that's pretty good. And where's he at? Where's that? Training. Their idea of spans and traces. Show results with spans. Spans, traces. I want to find a good one of these. Let's see what OpenTelemetry calls a trace. No, I want the visual of the difference. So the trace is like all of the calls through the whole system, whereas the span is just one individual. Yeah, we need Prometheus in it. Spans. Let's see if anybody's got. These might have been the guys that had a pretty good. The difference between spans and traces, but I want to see if they have. Nope, they don't have the drawing. Nah, I don't see it. I know I have it on. It kind of looks like. Let me see if I got my little pen up here. So if you've got, like web requests coming through or something, and they're doing this, over time, but these are all related, and then there's just other things that are happening over here, and they're unrelated, but these are all related. That would be, I believe, that's the trace. So that's the three here that are all related to each other. But then the span is the time of them all happening. I believe that's right. I don't know. Yeah. Web responding to an individual requests their function. Yeah. So actually, wait. Maybe I take it back. Maybe the span is each individual one. I don't know. I got to look that up a little better. So that's another one that goes in my notes, right? This is This is why I do it, right? Figure out what our other things are. We don't need that anymore because we already know that. Okay, good. All right, I'll go look those up better because I need to put a drawing in there so I remember it. But let's talk about the push versus the pull. So, yeah, push versus pull. Push refers to the endpoint pushing data into Prometheus. It's never the preferred method. They never want you doing that. If you must push, there's a Prometheus push gateway that we can use. Prometheus is not an aggregator or a distributed counter. It's a metrics cache. So you got to remember that you're not gonna throw a bunch of stuff to it and have it aggregated up. That's not really what Prometheus is designed to do. The preferred method is always to pull. So all the endpoints just push their data up and it sits there waiting for Grafana to come and pull the data off it. That's always the preferred method. The way that looks is on any one of my nodes. If I come here to like any one of my nodes, this node has node exporters running on it, right? I didn't mean to do that. But anyways, node exporters listening on port 9100, right? So on this box, if I just curl 127.0.0.1, if I could type, on port 9100, in metrics, right? So I want to go to metrics. I should be able to scrape the page for myself if I wanted to of what's being exposed there. Now, that being said, some people don't like that. They're like, oh, I just got to put all that stuff out there and everybody can just scrape. Anybody that gets in here can see everything that's going on in my cluster. You can lock these down with certificates if you want, and Prometheus can use certificates. It can use basic auth. It can use OAuth 2 and some other stuff, but it can do all that stuff. Oh, Turtlebeard, is it going away that soon? I picked this up the other day, but yeah, I know they didn't have much time on the Linux Foundation. Let's go look at that. What's our time look like on Linux Foundation? Let's see. In their exam here. That's actual. That's if you're like buying it. Hold on. We just want to go to the basic Linux Foundation, not even their portal. No, we don't want. Just want the general Linux Foundation, guys. Oh man. Anyways, yes, career goals with that. It says save now, but it's pretty short timer, right? Offer ends June 18th. Oh wow, so it does offer. The offer does end tomorrow. But yeah, if you guys want 40% off, like pretty much anything they're doing, you can do that. This is not what, like, I don't think this is, like, if you came to me and said, Scott, should I use this to break in the industry? I'd be like, I don't know if this is the way that I would start. Like, I don't know if this is the, like, this wouldn't be the first one I would have gotten from them. But if you already got like a CKA and a CKAD, maybe, or if you already have like an LFCS and you're just looking for something else, I mean, this one might be, I think, a good use of your time. I mean, there's a lot of organizations out there that are using Prometheus, so it's pretty big as far as that stuff goes. Anyways, all right. I've been distracted enough. So pull refers to the endpoint presenting HTTP information and then having the Prometheus instance scrape the data into its database. Advantages of pull: you can more easily tell if the instances are down. Right, it's very important. Yeah, Robodom, I'm basically like doing side quests now, so like a lot of this stuff I wouldn't expect other people to do, Robodom, but this is me just kind of like, you know, kind of having fun with it a little bit. You can manually go to the target and inspect the health with web. I do that. I literally just did that, so you can manually go. Extra instances are easy to add and remove, but then I put a warning here. Pushed metrics are never removed without a manual purge. You have to literally go to the Prometheus database with command line tools and get rid of anything that you've ever pushed into that database, or you have to blow the whole database away. There's no, this stuff automatically leaves over time and it automatically doesn't show up, but push never. If you push something in, it will always assume that you want to push more to it later. So it is the non-preferred method in every instance. So, hey, how's it going, Light? I'm just gonna call you Light. And we are just doing Prometheus stuff. And we're not doing it super well, but we're getting through it. I'm also kind of studying as I go, so that's kind of good. And yeah, and we're doing more hands-on than the test actually calls for. But I think it's because that helps us to remember things. So, all right. So anyway, so we get down here. Service discovery. Service discovery can be file-based or HTTP-based. So file-based is using like Node Exporter to expose something. You can change the port number if needed. It's useful for using the up metric with Prometheus. So the up metric, like I was just talking about in my home lab, looks like this, right? You come to my servers and you go actually just go look at a target or an endpoint, and Prometheus has stated that those are all up. And you say, how do you know those are up? Well, because Prometheus is scraping them every few seconds, every 10 seconds or so. And if it's been scraping them, then it will call them up. So that's very active. It's like it's going out and it's just like touching all of the different servers, so it knows they're active. Because if they're not active, it'll know immediately. We can turn one of these off and see how quick it takes to go. So let's go. Let's do. We'll just turn off like this 202 server. So let's actually come over here. 202 happens to be. Which one's 202? I think it's blue. Hey, you know what? We'll turn off two of them. We'll turn off Blue Node 02. Shut them down. Just force them down. And we'll take down red node 02 right here. Shut them down. Boom. Just kick the power out from under them. And then we'll sit here. And that's not exactly what this tool's designed to do. Prometheus isn't designed to present this. Look, this isn't... I could do things in Grafana to present this better. But we should be able to here pretty quickly. And I'm not sure exactly what the refresh rate is on this. So I'm just going to... It's already found one of them's down. What about the other one? Give it a few seconds. Now it's found both of them are down. Metrics weren't responding for 202 and 102, which are the red and the blue. Red is definitely 102 and blue is definitely 202, right? So those nodes are down. So but look how fast it was alerted to that. And we can do the up metric. We can actually check for uptime on nodes, so that's useful. I was finish this course and get running on my own clusters. Turtlebeard, are you doing Linux Foundation stuff? Are you getting ready? Somebody else in our server, I think, is taking the CKA on Thursday. They were in here earlier. I apologize, guys. I can never remember who's doing what. Too many people are doing too many things. I need you guys all to just stop doing things. I'm just kidding. No, it's good. It's a good problem to have. Everybody in the server is doing stuff and moving and shaking, right? So, by the way, I should be able to start these nodes up. I know I have node exporter set to start automatically on them, so these will automatically come up. Yeah. Robdom, you got to keep moving. Got to keep studying. All right. Speaking of that, we hit 2,000 members in our Discord last night, so that was kind of cool. Although it was a little bit cheating because it was somebody that was already in there that just made another account. But one, I like the effort. Two, we already went past it today with more people hopping on, so that's good. So that's good. Yeah. So I started out this stream telling you guys that we've got Discord, we've got a bunch of events coming up in August that are going to be kind of cool, which I'm really looking forward to because my July is shot right now. I'm moving off of my older project at work, and I'm going to be doing like not travel necessarily, but I'm gonna be going out to Chandler a little bit. If any of you guys have ever been in the Phoenix area, Chandler from me is about a 50-minute drive, 50. So it's a little bit of a drive out there in the morning. I mean, with no traffic. It's gonna be over an hour. But I got to go out there most of July to work on a project that's in the data center type stuff, and that's fine. I don't mind doing it, but I'll be doing that, and then in August I should be done with a lot of that. So then I'll be ready to just kind of relax and do the Linux group stuff. So that'll be good. You just picked your cube bundle, and that's why you're mine chat. Nice, Turtlebeard. That's good. Yeah. If people want to get on any of the Linux Foundation certs, especially if they want to do like CKA, we've got a lot of resources on that in the Discord. But also that is they're on sale right now, so that's very important. Let's refresh this, and it still sees one of those as down. 102 did not come back up. 202 also did not come back up. The connection has been refused. So the server's up, but the connection's been refused. So we might take a little trip over there real quick. So 192.168. We can hit them by number. 200.102 is one of them. So we should be able to jump in there because I got keys everywhere. SS-NTULP. grep-I for node. And node exporter is listing, but is there a firewall on? You have W's up, but that doesn't mean it's doing anything. If W status is inactive, so that shouldn't be stopping anything. Maybe we got there. Let's see, what's the date on this server? 57. It just started up a few seconds ago. When I ran that, it had only been up for a minute and a few seconds. So it's possible that we caught that. Yeah, we caught that in like a race condition where I went and ran it, but before it came up. So, there were multiple things happening. But now all the nodes are back up. So those nodes that I kicked over and brought back up, they should be better. Where should be a one world language? Interesting. All right, so let's go back to here. We'll exit out of here, jump back over to Prometheus, and we are ready to go with with more stuff, right? More stuff that we can do. Also, well, let me go. We'll go a little further, but I'll show you guys some other stuff that I think is useful. There's also HTTP based, and the response code must be 200, and you can write your own services if you needed to. Let's go with. See if I can't. Let me see if I can't just find. Hold on, I want to look something up here real quick. Those are extra things to read. Hold on, I want to look for. Is this it? Hold on. Skip verification. No, that's not it. Hold on. I think I called it. Hold on. I might need. Oh, it's down here. All right, but in client libraries. So this is how you get a lot of that. But there's a whole bunch of official ones. There's a whole bunch of unofficial ones, and then you could always write your own exposition formats. But what I wanted to show you guys. Hold on. Here's all the well-known ports for exporters. You're going to be like, wait a minute. There's a whole bunch of those. Look at. So here's the core ones, core components. Here's all the exporters that are registered right here. All right. All kinds of stuff. So many of them, right? We don't need to memorize them all. That's thankful. No, that's a black box exporter. I know I have this somewhere. Writing an exporter. If you wanted to write your own exporter, right? And here are the exporters maintaining impurity and all that kind of stuff. They have best practices for naming and labels and all that kind of stuff. But they also have all of the exporters listed here. I want to find this page for you real quick. Hold on. There's that. JProxy, node exporter. There's all these things. Here's our exporters and integration. Here we go. So this is a page of. They've got the ones that are exposed, right, and the ones that are supported, but then they have all these third-party ones, right? Here's all these third-party ones. Look at all this, and some of them are official, some of them are unofficial, right? Oh, and by the way, when they say official, well, they're obviously official when they say official, but when they say, oh yeah, okay, there's our official ones, yeah. So there are official ones that are coming directly from the organizations that also support that that software, right? So if you have any of these things, any of these APIs you want to expose, and any of these other things, Robodom, yeah, I would call availability. I mean, availability is one of the 3 pieces of security, and this is huge for availability. This is huge for what we call MTTD, which is mean time to detect an incident or a failure. Our MTTR is directly tied to that. That's our mean time to resolve an incident, right? So yeah, I think that's a thing. Logging, where you can log to, and but look at all this. There's more than you would ever need to know, and you don't need to memorize these kind of things. Here's a bunch of other third-party ones that are out there. So they give you a lot of stuff. Learning about monitoring for security purposes. Yeah, Robodom. Any monitors just are useful. Like so in the home lab, check on Ranger. There's Ranger. In the home lab, right? We actually have things. 92.168. Change that to 219. See if we can just get in the server. Okay. Anyways, over here, this is directly security stuff. Nothing you can do. Okay. So, well, and by the way, it looks like some of my data is not even coming through here. So I might have to figure out why the data is broken here, or it could be that the query is running long, right? There's all kinds of things that could be busted there. Oh, this is the 219 server. Let's see. Let's go check this one. Yeah. This is the busted one. Sorry, I went to the busted one. Let's go to 218. That's my fault. Should have been on 218. And then so here's my 218 servers, which do have data flowing to them, right? And then we can see different counters. Although let's go to one. This is telegraphed behind the scenes. It's not that. The Prometheus one that I have here is this one. So this is Prometheus data here for maybe a few of my different servers that I care about. Maybe if I wanted to see. Oh, some of my other nodes that I care about. Oh, 200 and 220 I always care about. Maybe these two as well. And then I can keep track of, multiple servers and see how they're doing. See what kind of things are going on with them, right? That kind of stuff. Hey, Morrison, how's it going? We're just hanging out right now. And I jumped way ahead on the stuff I was going through. But where were we at? We were way up here. We weren't even to this yet. Yeah, we were here. So service discovery. But the point is, they've got a lot of them, and you could make more if you wanted to. So you could write them and make them and do all this kind of stuff. And they have all the best practices and stuff. You need to have certain types of metrics names. You need to have certain types of labels. And there's certain labels that are protected, like double underscore are things that are for system labels only and that kind of stuff. And just they're like protected keywords, if you want to think of them like that, right? All right, so got service discovery. Talked about that a little bit. I need. Let me put in my notes here. Put examples. Service discovery. One of the labs that I'm going to be making. So we've got our base Linux lab that was on metrics, and it was Prometheus with Node Exporter and Grafana, right? That was what that lab is that I have up there earlier that I had written. I'm going to make another lab, and it's going to stand this up, and then I'm just going to use the Python client library, which I was messing around with last week on stream, and I couldn't get to work, and it's because I didn't realize that it wasn't the client library to make requests against Prometheus. It was the client library for your application to present up data. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit, and I'm going to have it present data, and then we'll scrape that data with Prometheus. And I think that'll be a fun little project. Again, I am not a guy that, I'm not some professional coder. I don't push code and that kind of stuff, but I can at least make things work most of the time. Like 60% of the time, it works every time. Anyways, all right, so put up examples for service discovery. So these are my notes for my own PCA presentation. These are the things that I need to keep doing, right? Okay, so this is the service discovery. These are the items. If it's event-based, you want to use file SD, and it uses iNotify. Yeah, yep. And then you don't have any event-based for HTTPD because it's just pushing up, right? Your update frequency is instant. It's instant thanks to iNotify. So if something changes in the file, it's immediately available for Prometheus. Again, Prometheus will still be scraping it. But the update frequency is instant. But on the HTTP side, it's whatever the refresh interval is that you set in the client, right? The format is YAML or JSON, and then only JSON for HTTP. And you can say JSON if you want there. It doesn't have to be JSON. And then transport is a local file, and then HTTP. Over here, you have HTTPS and HTTP. So you could do unsecured. That's unsecured and secured. That's what that is. All of these things are based on HTTPS over here. You're doing some type of security. Well, I guess you can do basic auth with HTTP, but I don't know why people would. And then security here is file-based security. And then HTTPS, you can use authorization headers if you have them. OAuth 2, where it's using a token. Or you could use TLS, where it's using certificates. That's what it is. Basic auth, you would be passing a username and password, and that's widely by us systems and security people not the way to do things. In testing, fine. Not really the way to do things professionally. We'll use TLS. You can use an authorization. Authorization header just is some key in the header. You can do that. That doesn't enforce security like TLS does. And then OAuth 2 is just a token, right? You check out a token from somewhere like Vault, and then you get access or whatever. So We could be like that. I mean, if we are in zero trust models nowadays. We don't just turn Node Exporter on and trust that everything's secure in our environment. Because if we have Node Exporter on a bunch of hosts in like a high performance compute, and somebody can compromise any one server, they can read all the stuff going on in the servers. Do they get anything out of that? I don't know. Maybe they just want to know how much your servers are being used. Is that any of their business? Probably not, right? But the point is, you can lock that down. You say, well, hold on a second. Wouldn't any server be able to do that? No. The only server that would have the certificate to read those would be the Prometheus server. So all the other nodes would only listen to Prometheus, right? So, well, however you want to look at that. There's a reference down here. So when I do put this out, there'll be more stuff for you guys to go read. All right. SLOs, service level objectives, service level agreements, and service level indicators. Service level objectives look at what service level indicators from less than or upper bound. So you want either less than an upper bound or greater than a lower bound. So if you have a lower bound and an upper bound on a process, hey, you guys ever play? There's this old I don't even know what you would call. You know what? Never mind. I won't use an old reference. I'll use a more current reference that everybody knows. Does everybody here know what Flappy Bird is? Everybody here familiar or seen the game Flappy Bird? I know the guy took it off the game store. But I mean, there's like a billion clones for it, right? Like everybody and their brother made a Flappy Bird, right? You guys all know what I'm talking about? Okay. Do you know Flappy Bird is simply an upper and a lower bound? Now, granted, they have some pipes and stuff or whatever, but if you were to play a game, like I was going to say, there was this old sci-fi game where you used to fly a ship like this, and then you would have to shoot everybody, then you have to slow down, and you'd have to go refuel on the planet, and then you'd come back up and shoot more creatures or whatever the things were. Well, the reason I bring that up is it's an upper and lower bounds, and if you touch the lower bounds, you crash, and if you touch the upper bounds, you crash. That's what a service level objective is. We want to stay between these things. This right here feeds directly into process improvement methodologies like Six Sigma and total quality management. It was even before Galaga. It's almost like an R-type. Do you guys all remember R-type? I know that R-type literally has like 100 different versions of the game. So some of you guys have probably seen R-type. But even R-type's not quite the same because these other games you kind of drift and you kind of go towards. Yeah. I was never good at Flappy Bird either, Robodom. I never. I think it only existed for a little while anyways. Service level agreements are explicit or implicit contracts with your users of how a service will perform against service level objectives. Can include consequences for missing targets. Guys, internally, I've worked on programs and projects where our production databases had millisecond timing, like 2 to 3 millisecond responses to queries from clients. And you say, well, why did you? Well, because at some point we realized that if we could keep this down low, we can get the response back to the customer in an acceptable time. The customer's way back further. I mean, you've got somebody logged in and they're looking up insurance quotes or something and they're doing whatever they're doing. And this part of it needs to get back fast so that all the other things can happen before it gets out of there. So sometimes, you're like, why does it matter if my part is within 2 milliseconds? Well, that's a service level agreement. Something has to be picked. As cloud engineer, it's a good idea to have Six Sigma. Yeah, Six Sigma is kind of the standard that we go for if you guys ever get into process engineering. And I actually, in our Discord, we have a couple of things for you guys, like for people that want to just get some certs on their resume. There's 2 free certs that are out there. There's the white belt for Six Sigma and the white belt for Lean Six Sigma. The training's free and the class itself is free. So, or the test. The test is free. So you might as well go take it, right? So, that's in the, for people that are Discord people. It's over in, I thought it was in beginner start here. Yeah. So it's in the beginner start here. We don't have much, right? We don't have much going on. But here are all the 5 free certs that you can do for free. And then somebody mentioned that the Redis one, I think I got to pull the Redis one out because I don't think that's free anymore. Or that one expired. Somebody told me that the other day, so let's pull that one out of there. Actually, we'll do it like this. We'll just strike through it because I'm not sure, and then I'll pull it out later. But I think that one's out. But API Academy, the IPv6 certification, so you want to learn some IPv6. Chaos Engineering with Gremlin, Six Sigma, and Lean Six Sigma. Those are 5 certs you can go put on your resume probably before next weekend. So if you got nothing on your resume, you can put at least something on your resume, guys. Right? All right. SLI, service level indicators, quantitative measures of some aspect of a level of service that's provided. You know, latency, error rate. Sometimes you have to calculate these, and there are ways to do that we'll get into here in a little bit. And there's ways to aggregate things, and there's ways to track. Sometimes you want to track just if something's increasing off of a norm. So you know, you got a process that's moving along like this. Actually, this actually comes up in storage sometimes. You've got a process that's moving like this. The storage indicators are always going up, right? Like storage. What I mean is, like, when you work with like high performance compute, and like I've done a lot with in the last 20 years, I've probably worked more with scientific researchers than any other thing that like any other developer type person I've worked with. I've worked with a lot of devs on other stuff, but in general, people are gathering all this data in, processing the data, and then seeing some kind of output. And then typically for repeatability and for research reasons and publication reasons, you have to keep that data for so long. Data almost always just goes like this. There's very little times where like I could like take 18 terabytes away. In fact, I would say I've been able to resort my data and do what we call rebalance data in like a GPFS system across more disks, and I can give myself what looks like more space because I'm just moving stuff around. But in general, the data goes up. The data are increasing at all times, right? So when I say that, maybe in my organization that this line right here is acceptable. Maybe so as an example, when I worked at a company that did cancer research many years ago, we were increasing by 10 terabytes a month on our storage. 10 terabytes a month. But if that ever changed to be like if that rate ever changed, like from this to this, like it was going from 10 terabytes a month to 30 terabytes a month because the angle changed, because the rate of increase went up, I would want to know that before 1 month was up and before I saw it, because the graph, does that make sense? I would want a calculation to catch it before my terrible eyes tried to catch it. We don't do things nearly as well as computers do, as far as like just looking at stuff and like calculating drift and stuff. So our system can do that, but sometimes that stuff has to be calculated, and there's a cost to that. The cost doesn't mean like money. You've already paid for the money, right? It's already, whoops, wrong guy. This guy. You've already paid for the money. I can answer that for money. But my point in that is you've already paid for, it's a sunk cost, but you are paying for it in cycles on your CPU for a lot of this stuff. Just tripling your data the other night. Yeah. Standardized indicators. There's frequency every 10 seconds, data access latency, time to last byte, aggregation intervals, averaged over 1 minute. Later on, and when I do finally push this out, I've got a whole bunch of like kind of like what I referenced at the end, so people can go spend more time kind of dig around in it. There are a whole bunch of standardizations that have been done within the Prometheus community, and it's what they want you to use. I kind of want to pull. Hold on. I kind of want to pull that up. Pull up the example of standardization into the SLA, SLI slide. These are notes for me, right? What I'm working on and what I'm going to do. So I'll add that in, because I'd like to pull that up and look at them all, right? Like that helps me out too. All right, digging deeper. So here's more reading. Here's a whole bunch of things that are useful for this. There's a sre.google book. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at this or known that Google has a whole bunch of free books out there. So there's that, and there's that. Turtlebeard, your CKA is borked. You've got 2 weeks. What happened? Did you try to get in there and it got messed up? Because one of our guys, I swear something happened like that for him on his LFCS. He got in the environment, it like messed up for him, and then he didn't get back in for a while. And then I think he finally got back in and he passed it, but it was real close. Oh, there's so much good information here. There's also a Google book and about the SRE fundamentals. There's a Grafana distributed guide to tracing. Prometheus pull does not scale, or does it? So this is from their blogs. So there's a whole bunch of these. I've been including the kind of useful ones up in our Discord as well. So let me show you guys another useful one. That's so where is that thing? Oh, it's over here on the Prolog projects. When you come down here, there's a little cheat sheet that's really good, and the cheat sheet is something that I was going to have us pull up and actually do in our little lab environment. So look at all these different things that you could do in there and practice and stuff. Booked, not borked. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Manipulating the this is one that I am not. I need to practice this. So we're gonna put this over here because we're gonna practice these a little later. But again, when we get to the practice time, if you needed to, you could go down here into the Discord, and you could either do these two labs are free and online, and you could build these. This is a home lab one that you could stand up if you have your own little system that can run Docker, and you can stand up your own little instance of Prometheus and Grafana and Node Exporter and have some data moving around in there so you could play with it. So all three of these are viable for you to do this if you wanted to practice some of this stuff with me or on your own, right? You're like, I'm done here. That's fine. Go, there's all kinds of good stuff out there in the world for you guys. All right. I'm going to actually, my lab is dead, right? And then this is my home one. So this goes up. Ranger check. There's Ranger. Nope, he's not on his bed. I don't know where Ranger is, guys. He's not there. I would have only been studying for 17 days. Yeah, Turtle. That's good. And Turtle, you're doing Mumshad's course, right? On Code Cloud? You're doing the Mumshad piece? I think if you're doing his stuff, you're going to be as ready as you can. If you do his and then you're just kind of testing around, yeah, Ranger's getting started. That's funny. My wife's got some friends downstairs, so that's probably what he's doing over there. He's over there messing around. All right, so we're over an hour. I haven't been working super fast through this or anything, but I know that I could do this faster if I were trying to hit all the pieces. So we got that. I'm not going to dig too much into those. The next part is systems architecture, configuring and scraping, understanding Prometheus limitations, data models and labels, and then exposition format. All right, so that's good. So here is an example of some systems architecture. You've got a Prometheus server. It's going to do some retrievals, and it's going to pull metrics from jobs or exporters that are out there. It can also have, there could be a push gateway that it can pull stuff from. I don't know this part at all. I need to add the push gateway. Push gateway needs to be looked at in systems architecture. However, I don't expect something that they don't really recommend you doing to play very high in the cert, right? Like you've got 60 questions total. This is 18%, so that's only like I wouldn't expect this to be more than one question, if even something about push gateway came up. Yeah. So then there's that, and then there's how you query it with PromQL. We'll get to that. How you push alerts to Alert Manager. We'll get to that. But Prometheus server itself is sitting there as a time series database, and it's saving stuff in that location somewhere. So if we're on my Prometheus server, right, and I just wanted to see how this was started and how it was running, we know that everything was in etc prom. Here's our Prometheus.yaml. But a bunch of things are not shown right here. So you might then say, well, Scott, how is that? How are some of those pieces of information being fed to your Prometheus here? And I would say, well, there's also, if I do a systemctl cat Prometheus, I'll see the information from the service file that systemd used to start this machine. And here we go. There's the definition of our config file. That's where we've been going for our config file. And here's our time series database storage path, varlib Prometheus. So if I did a df-h on varlib Prometheus. All right, hold on. I gotta change the music. That's That's too much music. The music was trying to do too much. All right, stream and chill. There we go. That song was trying to do way too much with its old. What was that? That was "Entry of the Gladiators" is the name of that song. In case anybody's wondering, I could play it on piano. Prometheus. df-h var lib. I did that to test you guys. All right, now we've used 11 gigs in this whole directory. That doesn't tell me how much has been used in there. That's my whole system, right? Yeah, this is normally the song that opens the stream, but I like this one. Hold on, I gotta change something here. I just realized my my chat's too low. Chat box is just, hold on. Just slightly. Huh. Can I get a chat? Somebody chat anything? That was, I moved it up a little bit. There we go. Okay. Yeah, because it looked like it was behind my head. The lopsided stuff, it looked like it was behind my camera. So I moved you guys up just a little bit. So now your GIFs shouldn't be all messed up when you guys do them. That's probably been like that for like a couple years and I didn't even notice it. Anyways, all right, so let's look real quick. du-sh on var lib Prometheus. And my Prometheus directory is only using 1.7 gigs. So in my home lab, for, I don't know, however many targets I have, we can go count them. Oh yeah, it's 16 and then the 2, so it's 18 total things that I'm scraping. I'm only using 1.7 gigs. Now I can tell you in a cluster that I'm running, I have 1,211 nodes that are doing stuff in there. I have some other nodes that are not, but actually in that one I have 1,265 nodes. And I'm scraping them back to Prometheus like this. And that node is for 31 days of retention for 1,265 nodes is doing 750 gigs of data. That's it. And that's rolling. That's rolling 31 days. It allows it stores the data in blocks and it allows them to fall off after 31 days. Some people, you got to think about what's your data retention. How long do you need to store data in your organization? Some people need, and this is performance metrics down to like the 10-second resolution mark. Do you need that for a year? Most of us don't. Most of us need that type of like tight resolution, probably only down to like the, what's going on over here? Hold on. Yeah. It's weird, lopsided. It's telling me you're a returning chatter. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's a returning chatter. It says chatter, but I'm trying to say chatter. Chadder. Whatever. But yeah, it's telling me that he's a returning he's a returning chatter. And I'm like, pretty sure lopsided's been in here more than twice. Anyways, all right. Tywex said, try to describe things as I understand them. So Prometheus is a tool for gathering status of services running for servers. So if I have 4 VPs running, for instance, yeah, you can gather all the data, Tywex, off of all your servers. Yep. I apologize if I haven't looked up there for a while, but there we go. So Prometheus has a nice little docs introduction, and you can come down here and you can read about the architecture. Where does it fit? Where does it not fit? Prometheus works really well for any numerical time series. It fits both machine-centric monitoring as well as monitoring of highly dynamic service-oriented architectures. It has performed exceedingly well for me as an engineer over the years on metrics of servers. So servers have these status metrics of, I'm using this much CPU, I'm using this much network, I'm using this much memory, and I'm using this much disk. Oh, and the I/O of my disk looks like this and all that. And all of those things are, I mean, it just excels very well at them. Just, you know, all these things, increasing counters, decreasing counters, change of rate of services, all those kind of things. Real achievement is to be a gray beard. Yeah, I actually just shaved off way more gray hair than I have ever shaved off of my head before yesterday. So, all right, when does it not fit? Values reliability. You can always view what statistics are about your system, even under failing conditions. If you need 100% accuracy, such as for per request billing, Prometheus is not a good choice, as the collected data will likely not be detailed and complete enough. All right, so there's other systems to collect and analyze data for billings, and Prometheus is your monitoring. And I agree that Prometheus is exceedingly good for monitoring services and monitoring how things work, right? How well they're working, for that matter. And we can come in here and we can look at any of these pieces right here. I can see what this query looks like. This is the query right here of the metrics browser of this system. And I can take this same query right here, right? And I can take this query and I can go drop it over here in my Prometheus. Now, I'm going to have to change it just a little bit because I have a variable called node. And instead of using the variable node over here, I'll have to do like a 192.168. Let's say 11.200. That's a node I care about in my home lab, right? And I'll do the same thing here because I have that variable in Grafana to be able to pull everything. I don't have that variable out here. 192.168.200 right there, right? And .9100. Oh, I got to do that 9100 here as well because that's the port that node export is being scraped on. But now if I do this, I should see the most recent value. But if I say graph, that's the same data here that I would be seeing over on the other system. Also, there was some kind of high data points. And then we could look at, do we want it stacked graph or do we just want it, you know, I don't know. And then all the data should be down underneath here. Execute that again. Yeah, there we go. We can give this more time. We did 5 minutes. Yeah, okay. But anyways, there's my sum. I can go look at less time, more time. Look at what happened. So this was when my system was being scanned by its antivirus in the middle of the night. And it started at 3:14 a.m., which, by the way, 3:14 a.m. is the default time when cron daemon for a cron daily job kicks off, right? That's how it started right there. All right, what am I missing here? Veer Singh said, hi there, just visiting your channel for the first time. Please excuse me if I'm asking a silly question. I'm just wondering, is there any sequence of your videos we can watch in? Thanks in advance. Yeah, well, you guys can, I mean, obviously you can watch whatever, but we do have like a starting, like just beginner Linux one. Veer, most of my stuff is just live, like I'm doing this live, so you guys can, mostly it's us hanging out and working on stuff. But yeah, if you wanted to like hang out and just look through video stuff, the best place to start is I have a little playlist on basics of Linux. But even better than that, I think, and again, Discord's free, so I'm not selling you anything, but I do think going down our Discord's like the best thing to kind of get plugged in with engineers and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I made a little playlist, Robodom, yeah. Yep. All right, so look, my point is you can go and query these things and see how they're going to look over time, and then you can grab them and you can go drop them right back in Grafana. Or if Grafana already had them, you can put them the other way. Now, one of the things that I said I was going to do here was, let me get this all out of the way, go back to my table. I can start just going through this data over here. Again, like, people learn things different ways, right? Some of you probably are tired of hearing me talk, probably tired of looking at this stuff. So what if I wanted to just come in here and say, well, hey, what if I just wanted to get the node CPU seconds total from the system? There we go. Okay. So that's the latest sample of a series within a given metric name. Okay, well, I know metric names look like this. Node. They're supposed to be meaningful over here with the what they are, and then descriptive in between, and then at the end it should be like total or count or whatever. Tell me what it's doing, right? And then now over here I can see a rate increase. Remember I mentioned if I knew something was going up, I could say for the last 5 minutes, has my demo API count been going up? I might not have this metric, so this may break. Watch. Yeah, it doesn't exist. But What if I strip that out, went back to my old query over here, and here's a cool thing if you've never played with Prometheus. I can start typing, and then I can say, well, what about my node CPU seconds total, which is the same other thing right there. Whoops. Node underscore CPU seconds total. I'll hit enter. I'll hit enter, and it'll go and it'll query all of those things. Some of my systems are under load. Some of my systems are not under load. This is not the best way maybe to look at this. So maybe I go to the graph, and that's not great. But maybe I come back over here. That looks a little better. That's a little more visible for me. And I go, maybe that's what I want to look at. So then I go take this query and I go drop it over into a Grafana page, right? But this is going to grab everything. And maybe I want to start pulling things down by specific labels. And remember, some of my things are in my infrastructure that I care about, and some things are down in the dungeon. They're the labs, and I don't care so much about them. So now I come down here and I start to find that I can find things by the instance job and label. And then I can do some math if I want. Then I can filter by series, and I can do set operations on just certain nodes, right? So I can come over here. Let's see if I can figure one of these out. I can say up against an instance. Wait, what was it? We had job, or we had, let's say job equals. And now it can be equals exactly, or it could be equal something like this, right? And then maybe I just say node, right? So, and if I don't know what these are, again, I can just go take a look at the data and see what data I'm scraping and that kind of stuff. But let's say up against job. Let's just see what happens there. And here's all the up instances or down. Oh, and there's my labels. There's my instance, my job, and my team infra. So if I wanted to filter by team, I could say team here is like infra. And now I would only see the up or down status of my infra nodes. This graph isn't super great because up is 1 and down is 0, right? So this might be better if I come over here now. This is one of the reasons this is so useful. I'm just going to say, you know what? Screw all this. I'll just make a new dashboard. Don't just discard all that. I don't want to make any changes. I'll make a new panel, and I'm going to call this panel right here. It's not going to be time series. I want to use a gauge because I want it to be 0 or 1. And then my data source is going to be my Prometheus data source. I already had this configured. And my query is just going to be up for team infra. I'm just going to hit run. I'm just going to apply it, and then here we go. Now, that is annoying, so I'm going to come back in here and fix it because it's showing me 1, but that doesn't mean anything. So what if my upper and lower value, my minimum value is 0 and my max value is 1, and then now I hit apply. And then I hit, let's just save this real quick. Test for stream. Save it. So now, and then now that we've saved it, let's refresh it because I'm thinking those definitely should be all the way over for me. Let's come back over here. I probably need to, I want last. I only want the last non-null value. Actually, yeah, that's fair. Last non-null. Fields, gauge. That's fine. Unit. That's fine. Max min is 0. Still not showing the way I want that visualization to look. But, anyways, the point is I can come in here and play with it. How to display your dashboard for better understanding of C-Suite. You know, Morrison, it's kind of funny. One of my brothers does data analytics, and he works with like Power BI, and he does all these SQL queries and stuff. He's actually coming to talk to the group in August, but he's been a victim of this where you can show executives all kinds of stuff and whatever for all the C-suite, and they'll just still be like, hey, can I get that in an Excel document? So he didn't even bother anymore. Hold on. Something. Min is 0. Decimal. And decimal is, oh, I can have more, huh? I want it to be, that's auto. From threshold, I don't need threshold colors. Show nothing. And I shouldn't need field overrides. But I do like that, but no. Normally these will just be up or down like I like them, and it'll actually look good, but it's not looking the way I want right now. So also I could do bar gauges, I could do all kinds of stuff, histograms if you got history data. There's a lot of stuff you guys can do in here if you wanted that. I don't need any of those. I really want this to just be a gauge, but the visualization's not looking the way I want it to. But I do this in other labs with no problem, so I don't know why. Maybe we got to treat it like a number? Yeah, I don't know why that's... They're all up, though. Anyways, but the point is, it doesn't look like good. It doesn't look that good yet, but I'd have to keep playing with it. But over here, it looks even worse. Like, there's absolutely no data being shown there, at least. So anyways, all that to show that, like, you can come in here and play with these queries as much as you need to. And they got basics and stuff too. All right. Enough of that. That's out of the way. So that's our architecture. You can retrieve, you can discover targets out of Kubernetes with plugins and that kind of stuff, and they can have a file SD out there, and they can be feeding data directly out of Kubernetes into Prometheus. There's all kinds of stuff here. I've done FluentD out of Kubernetes into Prometheus, and that works pretty well. In the experience, they shouldn't care about the dashboard because they do it very bad, and they have data in a format that they'd be readily. Yeah, I can tell you, dashboarding to C-Suite is not fun. Most people don't enjoy that very much. All right. Next thing, scrape configs specifies a set of targets and parameters describing how to scrape them. We define them inside of the basic configuration file. I have some of those to show you. They can be static or they can be dynamic, right? And I'll show you some static ones and some dynamic ones. And then they typically are set globally. There's global defaults for them, but you can override them. So let's look at that real quick. This is my home lab, right? Clear this up. We'll just cat out. We'll just more Prometheus, right? And here's the whole thing. Here's the default at the top of the file here. You know what? Let's make this a little bigger so we can read it. Let's go all the way across here. Clear. More. All right. There's the whole file on one page. Here's all our global stuff. Global stuff is stuff that's just by default how it's going to happen. Scrape interval is going to be every 15 seconds. If I need what we call a higher resolution in my environment, I need to change that lower. The default is every 1 minute. Wow. So you could have 1 minute default for a scrape interval is not a high enough level metric for most systems engineers. We need more precise because for historic data, 1 minute is perfectly fine, guys. But for troubleshooting data, which is typically, if I'm going to open up a page and go look at what the hell's going on with the system, there is probably some kind of granularity that I want to know. I want to know more than it happened at 3:01 or 3 o'clock. I want to know more precise than that, right? And the data leading up to it, I want to know more precise than that as well. So yeah, this is going to be about that. Valuation interval, 15 seconds. Evaluates rules every 15 seconds. The default's 1 minute. And then we added this during this stream. We added this. And we've got that query log. So every time we do anything down in there, it's sending that data over there. You guys saw that, right? We are actually loading the data up. Tani, how's it going?
My bugs are intelligent. They work out when the uptime pulse is going to happen and respond appropriately, then go back down.
That's pretty funny, Tani. And also, if you never admit it's a bug, it's just a feature. By the way, also, that's really funny that just worked. I haven't had a voice or a text-to-speech alert work in like months, and I have not touched them, and that just worked. So there's that. But Tani, how are you doing? Are you traveling? Are you doing a lot of talking and speaking? And Tawny, I just filled up all the spots. I would have liked you to come. Actually, I would make another spot for you if you wanted to come talk to the Professional Linux Users Group. So we have on August 3rd and 4th, we're going to do a virtual conference. I've got a whole bunch of different people that are coming to it and talking. They're going to talk about engineering and security. A lot of data analytics people wanted to come. A lot of site reliability engineering stuff. But if you wanted to come, Tawny, I would make an extra one of these for you. Also, there is for people that don't know, pretty much anything I make in any of these streams, which is not really that much, but all of that I put back into the Professional Linux Users Group. So all of my speakers do get paid. So I don't know if you guys all knew that, but when I bring speakers in to talk, which is pretty regularly, and this is going to be a lot of them, I pay them. So yeah, Tawny, if you would message me, it's not probably your normal speaking pay, but it's better than a kick in the pants. So that's the only sales I got. It's somewhere between $99 and $101. Let's just put it that way. But you do gotta entertain the masses for an hour and a half though. So figure out if that's worth your time or not. But I don't know. Most guys come to talk because it's fun. But you do increase business. Fair. All right, but we're doing Prometheus. For people that got here a little late, we're working on our PCA, Prometheus Certified Associate. You don't have to go take it. But if you wanted to build out a lab environment, if you wanted to study for it, I'll be putting up these slides when they get a little better. But these are my slides on the tooling. We are here in a config file right now looking at how scrapes happen. So right here, here's our scrape configs. Scrape configs right there. I was going to say, you better come back. My closed captioning stopped, and I was like, you son of a... It's just a restart of PowerPoint if those things don't work. But anyways, okay, so here's a static config. So statically, we're going to point at a target called localhost. Does everybody here know who localhost is? Localhost is obviously us, but does anybody, localhost is always the same thing in TCP IP, right? And that is 9090. Oh, by the way, you can change localhost if you want. You just go change in your Etsy host file, but localhost by default is your very specific home address of 127.0.0.1, right? Then we've got another... This is a static config right here called Prometheus node. So we've got up here, this one doesn't have a name, but the default job name is Prometheus. So there we go. Then we've got another job name here called Prometheus node, and he gets scraped on 9100, which is his node exporter, right? Okay. But then there's one down here called file SD configs. This one says any files local to this directory that end in a .json. So what if I just went like this? I said cat anything.json in here. Actually, well, yeah, we could just do that. And it just, those are all the files that I have in here. Now, I could be a little more slick about it and say, I could say something like this, while let's say for node in cat anything.json do echo I am checking node. It's really a file, but it doesn't matter. And then cat node, right? Done. Cool. So here's all. What did I just do? Hold on. For cat. Oh. Guys, I'm dumb sometimes. It's ls. So here's oh god. All right, I'm checking whatever the different nodes are. And then there was an awx.json that existed in here, and that one's got a whole bunch of other ones that were all set up. This is because I ran it out of my AWX instance and I didn't change some of the logic. So this is a kick in the pants for me. But here's all my other ones. And all they are is a basic little JSON file that defines what it's going to go scrape from that node. That's all it is. Pretty straightforward, guys, right? This one was... the name is not optimal for what I wanted, but it does have it pointing at all my different targets. So that's fine. That was fine when I did. I must have just left it. But that came from the AWX server, which is my my tower instance, right? But my point is, all these nodes here, if I move them all over here, right? And let's do. I want them to be obvious. All right, there they are. They're nice and obvious, right? All right, there they are. They're nice and obvious right there. 192, 168, 200, 200, 200. So, and then here's my 11s. I'm doing all that, right? There's nothing up my sleeve. Then I come back over here to my Prometheus. Again, not hiding anything. They're all right here. And I go over here to my status and my targets. There's all my defined targets. So that's where my scrape comes from. There's static scrapes and there's dynamic scrapes. I'm showing you all that to show you that you can statically scrape things or you can dynamically scrape things. And you might say, well, the static scrapes won't change very easily, but the dynamic ones do. And I'd say yes. And if you guys have never been around for this, let me show you how I generate those files. I'll show you why those are all in the one node. So I'll exit out of here real quick. I will cd to root streams, code examples, Linux, and then down here in roles, there's a role for node exporter, and every time I run node exporter to deploy node exporter on different nodes, this is what happens. I create a user over there, don't allow them to log in. I push over my node exporter executable. I push over my service file to start as a service, and I restart that service inside of a restarted. We reload the daemon for systemd. We restart it. Node exporter is now running on the box. So any server that I bring up in my environment, when I go hit it with this Ansible playbook, node exporter, the executable, which by the way, the executable works across all x86 architectures. It was compiled for pretty much all of them. You could recompile it or you could download a specific one. But this node exporter works on Ubuntu and within reason. It works pretty well. But you could recompile it if you need to. You can go get all the pieces and do it. In my environment, I don't need to do that. So it pushes for everything. If I had Firewall D up, I would use this part. But I commented out because I wasn't using Firewall D. But then down here, this is the little magic that makes Prometheus work. So I make sure that the Prometheus node that I have set. So I have a variable somewhere called Prometheus node. I'll show you that here in a second. Prometheus node in my environment is always the same node. And then this is like the magic. This is some little thing. Actually, me and Michael Pessa worked on this. He's going to come talk to the group. But it's super simple. This is what it does. It's copy. Copy is going to make the content of this file right here, right? But this file is being treated kind of like a Jinja template. So we're kind of treating the copy command like a template. And then what we're doing each time, I'll compare this to the actual file here in a second. We're writing it out to etc Prometheus item.json. So down in our Prometheus server, we're writing it etc Prometheus, and we're going to net each of those different names like we saw. Whatever.json. And what's going to happen is it's going to be an infra node, and the target is going to be the IP address, the address, and then 90. So this is the IP address here, the whole thing, and then 9100. So if I go look at what that net on that server, let's go right back here real quick. Sage Prometheus, and let's just cd to etc Prometheus, which is where that was going. And if I just do more, I don't know, lab8.json, that's what it turned into on the node. From this to that. So I can push those, and I can put them, I should have put them down in another directory. Professionally, I put those down in another directory. But Prometheus can scrape any directory you want underneath the directory. And actually, I think it could absolutely scrape anything, but I just do everything down under etc Prometheus because it's easy to keep all your configs in one place, right? Etsy is pretty much your config directory in Linux anyways, so that's how I do it. And you say, Scott, is that effective? That's how I've pushed it to thousands of nodes professionally. That's in fact, after we wrote this, I used this to deploy it at work on a bunch of systems. Same thing, same little setup. You might say, couldn't you just use a Ginger template? We could use a Ginger template. Let's back out of here again real quick, and I'll go up and then into vars, and then I think in main right here. No, I don't have it here. I have an environment.yaml, and there's my Prometheus node defined right there. So remember I said that variable is getting pulled from somewhere. It's getting pulled out of there. In this lab, in my home lab, if I have something that's secure, it gets pulled in through vars files like that as well, but it's always vaulted. And then you need to know my password to get into the vault, right? And that's a whole different process that I got labs that show you how to do that if you want. By the way, I haven't shown you guys labs in a while. We have labs on Killer Coda. They're free. Some labs from me and some labs are from Fisherman. So I'll put them there, and I'll put them over on the YouTube side as well. So there's labs that are free if you guys want to go and I'm a big proponent of just getting your hands on these systems. Like, I think it's the most important thing. As a guy who learned all of his Linux in the wild, yeah, Fisherman got at least one new lab. I know for sure. So, did he make another one, Robo? Let me check. Hold on. Fisherman make a new lab. I know he had one new one yesterday. Go look. Ah, yeah, he's got the part 3. Okay. Oh, and I was going to show you guys this. One of our guys put this together. Well, so somebody put this together out in the world, but one of the guys dropped this in our Discord, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. It is a nice little roadmap for some of you that want to get into cybersecurity. And the reason I show you it as the guy's original stuff is, one, it's nice to share. You know, he wants the traffic to his site, so that's good. And two, if you mouse over it, it tells you the cost. And I think it even maybe links you over to that page. So if you're going to go get your CISSP, right, a pretty coveted type of certification that goes over many of these network security, identity and access management, it goes over many of these different domains. You can go look at that kind of stuff as well. Because I know a lot of people want to get into security and stuff. So there's that. Okay, how's Ranger doing? The Ranger still isn't back on his bed. He must still think there's snacks somewhere. All right. So we did all that. We looked at all that. Scrape config. There are so many scrape configs for you to look at. Let's go look at all of these different scrape tools. So in our config file, in our actual config file there, here are all the different configurations. Normal scrape config, a TLS config, an OAuth. These are different things that we could set up for security reasons. And then down here we have the different ways. So we've got file scrapes, we've got HTTP scrapes. So if I want to scrape a web-based service, an HTTP-based service discovery protocol, we can do that. If we want to hit something and give it basic authentication or a header or go use OAuth, you know, some OAuth configuration, some of these things we don't want to keep in here, so maybe we have them decrypted and dropped in later. There's all kinds of stuff that we can do here. All right. Whole bunch of configurations that we don't need to necessarily worry about now, but I'm letting you guys know that there's a whole bunch of stuff here to configure and set up. Look at that. Look at all that Kubernetes crap. Lots of Kubernetes stuff. All right. But you don't need to memorize a lot of that. Also, that's really bugging me that's not. Bugging me that's not presenting correctly. I want to sit here and mess with this. Min needs to be back to 0. Finally. Jeez. That's so hard. Is that so hard right there? All All right. Now, hold on. We need to relabel these because this looks like crap. But we've got a refresh right here. We're going to set the default refresh to 10 seconds, right? Then we're going to come over here. We're going to move this over a little bit. These are... I don't remember what these are. Let's go look. I thought these were infra. These are infra. Let's change this to dungeon. Because I don't care about dungeon nodes, right? Let's run the query. There they are. Okay, apply. So the dungeon nodes, I don't know which one's which, but I can tell you right now if I just go turning 2 of them off. So blue node 1 and red node 1. Let's go turn those off and then we'll just sit here and we'll wait. We'll see how long it takes Prometheus to notice. So Grafana is querying Prometheus for an up-down state. Prometheus is scraping those nodes as they go down right now and stop responding on... They're doing HTTP requests on... Oh my god. Are you kidding me? Alright, that's kind of funny. Really? Can't we just have... Guys, this is why I can't have... Oh my god. Alright, I quit streaming. I quit talking to you guys. I quit this technology shit. This is... Grafana's embarrassing me in front of my friends. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't... Guys, I swear... I have literally never seen this kind of BS before. How can it even go to -1? It's 0. I'm gonna hit enter. It's 0. I'm gonna tab out. Decimal. I don't want decimals. I can be auto. Oh, it looks terrible. Oh god, that looks terrible. Somebody help me. What was I on? Green, yellow? Oh jeez. Oh. Guys, I'm way too colorblind, but these all look terrible. It doesn't look terrible. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that's not the way that's supposed to work, guys. Even when I'm by myself. Yeah. Well, so on the plus side, all this stuff we're doing right now is actually Prometheus. We're just messing with Grafana as like an end piece at the end of it all, right? So, thanks for the follow, by the way. Oh, jeez. That name. Well, we'll see how he talks. I wonder if that's. We had a guy on Friday who kind of got me a little riled up, and that's that looks like a interesting name, but we'll see if they hang out or not. Do I do ASMR? I don't. And it's funny, I know what ASMR is, but I think that's kind of silly. Anyway, so let's go back to life cycles. The long-term support for Prometheus is a 10-year life cycle, and then every 6 weeks they do a new minor release, right? Local storage, it's limited, but it's not cluster replicated, so it needs to be treated like... compaction happens in the background, and then it's initially 2 blocks, but it's eventually compacted into larger blocks as it goes further back. There's 10% of data retention or 31 days, whichever is smaller. That's, yeah. So anyways, let's go to the lifecycle page. So if we go over here, pull up our freaking Grafana, and then we pull up a new page, and we say Prometheus.io, right? We go to their documentation. It's always docs, and we should be able to find, here's their long-term support stuff. So this is what I was talking about. When is the end of support for any of these different pieces? and there's a list of all their long-term support here. And it's actually funny. It looks like it's all ending pretty soon. So I don't know if those numbers are off or if they're still working on them. You know, I don't know what that looks like. But here's their information about their support. Their back-end concepts for the storage down here. Here's our storage. Right. There's on disk, and then there's also like cloud storage. You can send your data up anywhere. But this is what it looks like on disk if you go actually look in one of the data directories, and it's these individual chunks of data. If you go deleting them, that's on you, right? Compaction, again, 2-hour blocks, and then they're compacted into longer blocks based on the data spanning. And I've seen people run really large clusters, and there you go. All right, operational aspects. You can pick these when you actually run the local storage, or you can set these in the config file if you want. So in my case, you guys might have noticed, if I come back here, sh Prometheus, and if we do a systemctl cat Prometheus, there you go. Yeah, so there's our values here on my system because I haven't set any of those. And then there's also default. So if you don't set default, so in my case, I've never told Prometheus how long back it can store data, but I can tell you real quickly how long Prometheus stores data. You want me to show you how I find it in a cluster? This is going to be a little silly, but this is what I do. I go to a thing that I know is looking at Prometheus. So in this case, web server information. Let's just discard the dashboard. We don't care. And we've got all this data, right? But it's for the last 6 hours. So now I'm going to switch. This is going to seem silly, but I think my cluster only stores 15 days. So I'm going to set it to 30 days. And look what immediately happens to my Grafana queries. The Grafana, which doesn't have any local storage, is querying a time series database for as far back as 30 days, and it's only getting a little bit of time. It's not getting more. So what if we did this? We come here and we look at it's right about 6 a.m. on 24/06/24. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to cd to etc Prometheus vi my Prometheus.yaml, and I'll set that background equal to dark. All right. And in here, there's a global configuration that I can go find. I've set this professionally, but I don't keep all this stuff in my head, guys. I tell you, I reference stuff all the time, especially when I've only done this once ever. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go, wait a minute. I can set. So Prometheus stores an average of 1 to 2 bytes per sample. Thus, the planned capacity of Prometheus server used the rough formula of this. You know what I like to do instead? I like to just turn it on and see how much it gathers. This is what I did in my cluster. And I said, oh, we've got 15 days and it's taken about 400 and something gigs. Let's put it to 31 days. And we put 31 days and it's at about 760 to like 780 gigs for the 15-second resolution we want at 1200 and it's like 1265 total nodes, 1211 like compute nodes. So anyways, that works. But over here I can update how long. Let's see. Longer block durations. You can change the way that it does backend blocks. You can set some other information here. Now I know, let's go find it, that we can set the storage. Yeah, the minimum number of bytes and storage blocks retained, the oldest will be removed first. Retention is, so when to remove old data defaults to 15 days. Overrides storage retention. So I'm going to add this flag right here. Storage retention time. And actually, you know what? I can do it here. I should be able to do it right here, but since I don't see a value that looks like that, I'm just going to go ahead and let's go do our cat again, and then we'll vi this file right here. Right. And in this file right here, we'll just add that as an option right here. Copy, boom. And our retention time was 15 days. I'm going to set this to 31 days. It says right here, defaults to 15 days. I'm going to set it to 31 days. And because of the way that that looks, I'm going to go ahead and set it like that. Escape :WQ. We've changed the service file. So we need to do a systemctl daemon reload. And then we'll do a restart of our Prometheus. Now, if it started again, a few ways to check that. I just want to keep pressing up, but then it's not going to be there. All right. Systemctl status Prometheus. All right, it's running. It's up. It's doing the things that we think it's going to do. Let's go look back here. Let's refresh this page right here. And we still see the 6 o'clock, right? We'll see there will be the tiniest little blip of data right here. If we come all the way to the front, the restart actually probably shouldn't have really blipped much at all, but there's that. But if I come back here, I can set this back to the 30 days. And here, as I kind of hang out and watch, I will see this slowly grow longer. But over the course of the next few days, I will see this grow out to be longer than the actual time or the 30-day window here. Now, you can manually set these windows here. But if you want, you can always just do now -30. I'll do that there. By the way, Robodom mentioned playing with Grafana. Can I show you guys something that I really like about Grafana? And I haven't hammered this, and I don't think I've even said this on stream for over a year. Did you know that Grafana will give you a 100% free version of their actually free plan? I've had this plan for 2 or 3 years. They've never charged me anything. They've never asked me for a card. It says right there, put the credit card away. But that is enough. In my home lab, this would be enough for me to run. If I was to run stuff up to the cloud as just logging and stuff, I could run my 30 or so nodes out of my home lab, out of there. No, Robodom, if you're going to go to production, you're going to pay. If you're doing production, you're going to pay here. But if you were going to do production, you could also you can pay for Grafana in the enterprise as well. So you could either do their stuff, push data up, or you could do it local, which is what most of us would choose to do. But this is for people that want to do a lab, and you're like, I want to do a lab, but I can't possibly squeeze another little bit out of this, or I want to do a lab, but I just want to track my local little desktop when I spin up Docker containers. You could absolutely do that out to the cloud for nothing. And you can get cool little visualizations, and you can get good skills on things that are valuable in the industry, and they will do that for you. Yeah, that account was created 28 minutes ago, Robodom. It's the internet's an interesting place. I mean, most of you guys know this in general, but the internet's an interesting place. People will say anything they want on the internet. People that for sure would not look you in the eyes off the internet and definitely say anything. But yeah, that's it's interesting. Interesting the things that people choose to do and the ways they present themselves. Anyway, so we're doing this. I'm gonna center myself again because I'm angering myself over here. We have upped the storage of our Prometheus now, so we've added more space to it. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. It's definitely allowed people to. What is compared to Grafana that companies might utilize? So, Morrison, you could put. Oh man, I mean, so you've got Nagios, Zabbix. So these are Nagios is an older tool, but it still exists, still works. Zabbix is around. I think is it called Cilium? I think sprung out of Nagios. I think it's Cilium, Cillium. I think so. Sysdig. I guess you could use Sysdig. And then there used to be one in high performance compute space, but I don't think it's maintained anymore. And it was called what's it? It's all the little tentacles. Ganglia, which are the little things that come off of like little microbes and stuff. Little ganglia. So that was one, and then one that was really popular, but I think it's down to only like 4 people supporting it, is cacti. So cacti is a really good. I use cacti professionally as recent as 8 years ago. So cacti is still kicking, but that wants to be fed. Here's the thing: a lot of that stuff wants to be fed SNMP data, and SNMP data is, how to put this? Okay, SNMP is the Simple Network Management Protocol, not monitoring. Most people think it's the Simple Network Monitoring Protocol. It's the Simple Network Management Protocol because we want to be able to configure things and also just take data out of systems. But then we found that it's really a bad idea to configure shit over the web, like over even our local network. It's a bad idea. So most people, I don't think anybody in the last 20 years I've run into configures anything over SNMP. That being said, oh, Cilium, you're right. Cilium is something else, yeah. No, what's the... You are right. That's, yeah. Cilium's the other one. It's Zabbix, though, for sure, right? Products that have the same capability. Yeah, I would tell them. So here's why I still like Nagios, and I run Nagios in the home lab, right? Some of you guys notice it. People have called me out on it. You can see on Ranger Cam my Nagios instance down here. This is a iframe that's being passed through to Grafana as well, but it's running Nagios in the background. I've got Nagios instance out there. Populate it with Perl. I do a bunch of old stuff in Perl because that's just what I have scripts for, and that's what I wrote years ago. I just found out from talking to one of our guys on Discord, he came and talked that they're still running a Nagios instance that I built like 12 years ago at a company in one of the government projects that he works on. He's like, yeah, it's changed a lot, but it's still the one that you built. And I'm like, that's super funny. Well, it's still the base core instance. That being said, I want to say all that to say that I think Nagios is good. I think all these tools are good, but there's a problem with Nagios in... I don't want to, like, if anybody's using it professionally, I'm not trying to tell you not to use it. What I'm telling you is it didn't keep up with the times. In that, like, in modern times, what most people want to do is have their exporters over here, whatever, as modular pieces. And if I want to export with Node Exporter and have Prometheus scrape it, good. If I want to drop Node Exporter and put my metric speeds in and scrape those, good. I should be able to do whatever I want. It shouldn't all be in one big package, which is what Nagios is. And again, I'm not trying to badmouth Nagios. It does great things. Its ability to go and configure things and grab things is great. But, yeah, it's just not, I don't know, I want to say it's just not keeping up with the times, man. Like, because you can change all your Node Exporter out when there's a problem with Node Exporter. You change out just that piece, and then you've patched your vulnerabilities, and you change just your Prometheus piece. You don't have to change anything else. You can change your Grafana piece as the endpoint. So Datadog, yeah, and Datadog can feed. And by the way, all these different tools feed into Grafana as an endpoint. So, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know anybody that does it as well as Grafana, I guess. But yeah, Datadog, I guess, New Relic, they all show data. Splunk is showing data at some point. But, you know, I find people have to be so specialized on Splunk for it to be useful that, I don't know. But I do know that they had a thing a while back, I think this is still true, where all of their training on the Splunk site was free for vets. And I never went and bothered doing it, but that was kind of, yeah, I never bothered doing it, but that's actually a thing. Anyways, I wonder if that guy's sitting around molding still that he got kicked off the page here. So, all right. Yeah, somebody say free. We all like free. Let's see. I gotta make sure I don't gotta go kick anybody here too. Yeah, we'll check that later. By the way, guys, we got over 2,000 members as of last night, so that's kind of good. I think Zabbix is the same thing. I think Zabbix is one of those Nagios clones, isn't it? Pretty sure it is. It's the same thing. All right. Data modeling and labels. It's awesome when companies give discounts to vets, student, teacher, etc. Yeah, I agree, Apollo. Metric names specify the general feature of a system that is measured. So it's got some type of name. Then there's metric labels. Labels are data about the data. So they're almost metadata, but they're just labels. But they're dimensional data to identify any given combination of labels for the same metric name. So what we were showing earlier when I pulled this up, let's take an example of this again. If I go back to my graph, so when you set up your environment, you can do your graph. I can go grab this HTTP request total. I don't have any HTTP requests. Let me just do CPU. Hold on. So one of the nice things is I can type CPU in, and then here's my node CPU seconds total, right? And when I execute this, this is going to grab all of it, but I'm going to say here, I should be able to say by the team infra, right? So we should be able to filter down aggregations based on dimensions, right? So labels can contain any of these values. The 2 underscores at the beginning I mentioned are reserved for internal use. Too many labels don't record things like customer. True, core count. Yeah, you don't want to expose things, and there is a desire for people to put too much labels on things too, right? Label with an empty value are considered equivalent to labels that do not exist. So if you don't put a value to your label, it's ignored. Common notation is the metric name, and then so I could say in there label name equals whatever. So let's go back to my little thing. This is what I'm trying to get better at too, like I said. And in here, my label was team, and then it equals, let's say down here, dungeon, right? And then now if I execute this, I'm not going to get all these other ones anymore. Let's do this so it's a string, right? And then now I only see the dungeon instances here. I don't see any of the other ones. And then you can go across multiple dimensions as well, as they like to call them. So metric labels allow us to do dimensional slices of what otherwise would have been all the cores and all of the data inside of our system. And now I can just slice down to just the ones that I care about for whatever reason, right? And then there's some naming best practices that they recommend. And here's a bunch of information about it. The name should have the descriptor at the front for what it is. And then at the end, it should have the measure or what it's doing. It's info, it's seconds, it's bytes, it's the total. It's the seconds total, right? It's the timestamp seconds. It's information about what it's trying to tell you, right? Don't leave people guessing. This was what I was trying to find earlier. So this was the best practices for naming. Our base unit should be these things by default. This is what they've chosen. I happen to be somewhere that doesn't use Celsius, but you know, I guess Celsius doesn't look nearly as hot in Phoenix. I can tell people it was only like 40 today, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's only 40 today," and I was like, "It's Celsius," right? Anyway, so these are the things, right? I don't know if anybody's from around here, but 40 Celsius. Oh God, no, it was higher than that. Let's see. It was about that today. It might have hit that today. So it was 43 to 44 today. So yeah, nice and cool, huh? Yeah, there we go. All right. Also, hey Cinbleed, how's it going? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. This, by the way, if we move it back to 30 days, should be slowly, and we won't really see it, probably not on this stream, but over time that will be slinking further and further back. And actually, one thing that we could do is right here, we could watch and see that it's not going forward any, because this is still refreshing every 10 seconds, and this would be slowly draining out from our data back. But if we just keep an eye on this, this should stay right here for the rest of the stream. That's another thing. Best advice to give a freshener, AWS DevOps and DevOps engineer. All right, so PKO dev, if you're doing DevOps and DevOps engineering stuff, and you're like, maybe you've been doing your job for a while, now you want to go get back into it again, place I would go, and the only AWS thing I have on that side is Developer Associate. I don't have the SysOps or the DevOps one. I do have security though for AWS, but I would go to serverless land. If you've never been to serverless land, any of you guys out there that want to learn more about how to do things really cheaply up in the cloud without spending a lot of money, this is it. Serverless land. This is the place to go spend a good amount of time. There's all kinds of things that they show you and talk about, and then there's all kinds of things to go learn, guides, workshops. Workshops are free, and you just, well, free in that, I mean, if you can spend money in serverless, like in a lab environment, I'm going to be really, really effing surprised. Like if you had an API call hitting like a Lambda instance, like a few thousand times a second, you'd probably cost yourself some money at the end of the day. But for the most part, like you would have to spend so much to even work some of these up that I would tell you you're not really doing a lab anymore. You're actually just kind of dicking around, which, then if you spend some money, that's on you. What's the data right? K8's ingress gateway operators support ECDSA and ECDHE with enforcing TLS 1.3. Nice. Synbleed, I've done not that, but I have done some F5 stuff out of Ansible, and that's pretty fun. Mainly because I'm not the one who had to own it. I just had to help the person write it. Because mostly people come to me for Ansible stuff at work. So guides, workshop, there's all kinds of stuff in here, and there are a lot of things in any of these site reliability engineering DevOps stuff around event driven and your CI/CD. Event driven is huge, and you can do like anything that you hear people talking about doing with like GitHub Actions and all these other things. You can do it out of an event driven architecture. It's all this stuff's event driven, anyways. But nice, Symbleed. All right, let's make sure that's where it's at. Hasn't shortened up on me any. All right, so there's all this stuff, and I think I get most of this stuff, but we also saw that when our logging that is now going into that logging server, when that happens, we can get this all in. By the way, let's go fix something in my environment. Let's go fix something that's very important now that we know about it, and I'll show you guys kind of what we need to do. So in the Prometheus server, we just set up, some of you guys were here earlier, we set up this query.log, right? So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to grab that whole, that's fine. I can remember that. Let's CD over to opt Promtail. Never set up Promtail in this environment. It's amazing. Well, I need to fix a whole bunch of things in my environment then. What I was going to do was I was going to add one thing to Promtail. Now I just have to put Promtail on the server. However, I think I have a playbook for that. So let's go back out here. Let's grep for Prometheus. Now we're yak shaving. Does everybody know what yak shaving is? Okay, so we got Prometheus in there. All right. Let's all right, we got a Promtail deploy, so that's good. Let's go look at my work, right? So we'll more it. Roles, Promtail deploy, tasks, main. This is going to create the directory, push over my Promtail stuff, start the service, and point it back at. It's going to do the basic Promtail local config, so I'm going to have to go fix that. But this will do what I want. All right. So I'm going to say in this playbook, I'm going to say, where am I at? Let's do this Ansible playbook, and we are going to do. We don't need to give it a -i because it'll use my default services, And I'm going to say that I want to do Promtail underscore deploy. Extra vars are going to equal survey hosts equals all. So we're going to hit all the hosts in there. And then we're going to limit it down to just Prometheus. And that'll do it. Okay, so this is going to push some stuff over there, but this is not going to be, strictly speaking, correct yet. We're going to probably have to go push it. Because I think I originally wrote that for a... Actually, I'm like... Damn cows. I'm pretty sure I wrote that for my CentOS boxes. So this is not going to do all the things we need, but it's going to get us close. So watch this real quick. And all that, remembering that we need to get that log file. Which it's funny, I think I deleted it out of here. Yep, I did delete it out of here. All right. So that's pushed. Let's go check. Let's go see it working. sh Prometheus. And then cd to opt Promtail. And in here, let's vi this Promtail local config. And message, so ls-l var www var log. In here, we have all kinds of stuff, but we're on an Ubuntu box, so none of these files here work for this. So let's change these scrape configs here. Messages will be syslog because it wasn't working as messages, so we'll change that to syslog. And then secure will be auth. So that'll be auth log, var log, auth log. Okay, so that's there. And then we're going to say there's 7 lines here. Y7Y, come down here, P, and then we're going to hit O, so there's a line there. And we're going to add Prometheus. And then Prometheus is going to get var log Prometheus query dot log, right? So these are all going to be. Have you worked with Envoy? I mean, writing custom Envoy filter. I have not, Sinbleed. That's not what I do here. So let's say var log Prometheus, and then let's start systemctl restart Promtail, right? So restart the service and. Status Promtail. So it's up and running. Now we're gonna go over here. Check this out. Hey, how's it going, BlazeBits? I am doing Prometheus stuff, and we are messing around in our Prometheus. Oh, and by the way, now we've changed over a little bit to Loki though. So I need to go to Loki professional. Let's go to here. And if this all worked, I should now have in a second here. I should start seeing. Oh, well, we haven't done any Prometheus queries. Let's go do some Prometheus queries. I'll execute a few of these. There's about 20. And then, oops, there's Ranger. How's Ranger doing? Come back over here, and I'm going to refresh this page. And we should have. Oh, we don't need failed for right now. We just need to see if Prometheus starts coming through here. I don't see it yet. Let me think. Didn't change anything else. Yeah, thanks for the raid, BlazeBits. What were you guys working on? You guys were probably doing some Cookie Monster. I know you guys were probably doing some hack. One of the guys this morning, I think it's Gardev or something. He was giving away hack the box stuff. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, doing some automating on some Kerberos. Nice. Where is? Let's put it in because maybe I need to find it. Prometheus. No data. All right. So let's go back here. Name Prometheus targets that. Oh, I didn't change. Yeah, hold on. My bad, guys. Sorry. Oh, man. We'll change the job here to also be Prometheus. and secure here. We're going to change this to auth. There we go. Got to restart the service. You always got to restart the service, guys. All right. Over here now, let's go do a few more Prometheus. So because that's a log only when people hit the API, it's only going to show up when people hit this. So we come back over here. How's Ranger doing? Still lazy. Now there's Prometheus, and there's our requests against the different things that we were looking at. So now I know somebody's trying to find about the node CPU seconds for only Team Dungeon, and they're doing API requests against my server, and only for like the last 5 minutes, right? And then that should aggregate them up by each of the different systems. And then over here, I should see a new one. Yep, there's my new one, and it's that. So I can start to look at how things are happening inside of Prometheus here. And the goal of this stream was I was practicing talking through a presentation that I was putting together the last couple days on the Prometheus Certified Associate for people that wanted to get a little better at like monitoring and pulling data out of things. So we've got, you know, the stuff about people that want to do it. Then there's a bunch of hands-on stuff because a lot of us are hands-on. So this is a lab that I wrote. This is a lab that somebody else wrote. They're both good in different ways. The Docker one isn't going to let you go in and do this stuff. Like all the stuff you guys have seen me doing over here, you can't do this in the Docker build out because you've just got 3 containers, right? You got 3 containers that stand up with Docker Compose, and you can get in there and muck around, but you're not running a server. Mine is about running a server. If you have a home lab and you're like, hey, I want to set this up in my home lab and play with some of this Prometheus stuff because I can make these cool little dashboards and stuff, you know? Maybe you're like, oh, I want to check on, like, we're digging down in for a very specific reason on this one, but like if you want to know how my lab servers are doing and this kind of stuff, and like you want to monitor stuff in your home lab, Prometheus is just like one of the best ways to do it, right? So that's what we were doing here. So then it was all, we were down here. We're not quite to PromQL yet though. We were here. And then we did that, and we were like, again, every time I go through any of these, I just like get you guys in hands-on, because if you really wanted to learn this stuff, all you got to do is get in there and start working on stuff. Doc, I appreciate you coming. So even if you're not around too long, I do appreciate you coming over on the YouTube side. The exposition format, it's a text format. If you want to expose your own metrics, you can do it via a text example like this, and you can just open up any metrics you want to show out of a text file on a server, and then share it up through like a web page, and it would be exposed, and Prometheus would be able to scrape it if you gave it a scrape config to go and read that. This format right here is if you have anything that you want to expose that you don't have a language, like your library, your preferred language doesn't have a library for it. And again, I'm not like some, great coder, but I can at least get something working out of Python, but I don't have any preferred languages. They do have a huge amount of client libraries that are the official ones, but also all those unofficial third-party ones, and one of them is Bash. So if you're just if you do, like one of our engineers, Sending Grounds, who's been with a big one of the FANG companies, or Mang nowadays, he's been with them. He just hit 7 years the other day. That's a long time in one of those companies to just keep pushing. He does a lot of his stuff in Bash. He's going to come talk to the group on August 4th as well. So when we're doing that big virtual thing in August. By the way, I haven't mentioned that in a while. So for people that got here later, in our Discord, we're turning 10 years old as a group, and we're turning 5 years old on Discord. So we have a bunch of people coming to talk August 3rd and 4th. And these are all free. People come to them. We've had, with our speakers, I'm trying to break Discord in general. Like, I'd love to just have too many people down in a chat for anybody to even be able to do anything. I think that would be hilarious. But I'm sure that's not going to happen under 50 people. But we've had like up to 30 people in some of these. These will get more popular as it gets closer to that time. But we have all returning speakers. Let's see, is there anybody here that hasn't talked to the group? My brother Tom hasn't done an official talk, but he has talked to the group before. And all the other guys are returning speakers. They have all talked to the group at least once, most of them 2 or 3 times. So That'll be good. So some people like to hear it. It's like being a dad. Your kid won't listen to you, but he'll listen to the coach. Sometimes people are like, this guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. We'll just go listen to these guys. Those guys know what they're talking about more than me too. But the point is, you don't have to make me feel bad about it. All right, I'm just kidding. So here's some other stuff about exposition format and some storage topics. More stuff out there. Chicken has done a talk, but he didn't offer to come this time. So yeah, he didn't offer to come this time. All right. PromQL, this is the biggest part. Everything else is just under 20%. PromQL is 28%. So this is a big part. Yeah, Robdom, he came and talked. Like I don't want to out anybody, but he had probably my favorite thing that's ever happened in group before. You weren't there, Robodom? It was 2 years ago. He had gotten so. I'll let him tell you sometime, Robodom. We've mentioned it up in Prolog Engineer, or I'll tell you offline sometime. But it's probably my favorite thing that ever happened in stream. Something that happened to him. It was him and Salty. But anyways, selecting data, rates and derivatives, right? That's a mathematical term for how rates are changing over time on an average. Then aggregation over time, aggregation over dimensions, binary operators, histograms, and timestamp metrics. So we're looking at how you pull data. Tomato, you remember you were there? Yeah, Robdom, if you do remember, you guys talk about it. I'm just not going to talk about it, right? Because it's like I just said about people not listening, but if I start talking drama, people will remember. And they'll be like, I remember that company. I remember that time that API was exposed. I remember that. It was pretty funny, though. There was like 15 of us in there. What are the chances that 2 of the people are going to meet around one of them exploiting something the other one works at? Okay, that's all I'm saying. But it was pretty funny. All right. So, So how do we select data? We've got an expression language, and we've got instance vectors. We've got ranges of time that we can select. Scalar. Scalar always means the same thing. It's a simple numeric floating point value. Floating point means that it can be anywhere from an integer out to many decimal points, right? So it doesn't exclude integers. Sometimes people think, float is always this. You could set a value in a scalar. This is something I learned from Perl. You can set in scalar. So Perl does it by default. You don't tell it what float and that kind of stuff. But a scalar can be 1 through 9, and it could be ordinal counting numbers. You're counting through things. However, it still could be ready to hold longer values, right? Now, some of us, if you've done computer science, you're like, well, we want to be as efficient as possible. I'm not saying you don't want to be as efficient as possible. I'm just telling you, like, unless you're like coding to like keep the lunar missions directly on track, it's not as big a deal in a lot of this data stuff. Online transaction processing even can be a few hundred milliseconds late, but this is why we track. But we were talking about like aggregate metrics and stuff, because if you're the long pole in the tent and they're used to you staying under 3 milliseconds and now you're taking 200, that does start to become a problem, right? That's why we do have service level agreements with different parts of our company. And then string is a simple string value currently unused in this system, right? You can select. Do I have that backwards? No, I have that. I think I have that right. I definitely know that select labels and the select label matches and the regex are right. But now I look at those and I'm like, do I have those wrong? Anyways, I don't know. Impromptu security testing. Yeah, Robodom. All data breaches are just free online backups. Right? I mean, some of you guys know that. Right? All right. Selecting data. Boom. We've been doing selecting data this whole time, so I don't think we have to go drop over there too crazy. But we can select data, and we have a little cheat sheet. So where's that cheat sheet at? Here it is. Yeah. And then here's all kinds of cheats that I really think if you want to get better at this, go stand up one of those labs. You'll have all the node exporter data. So it's if you stood up just a Prometheus instance, you wouldn't have any data. Well, no, I take that back. You would have some to query off of the Prometheus instance. But if you want to be able to query off of like a lab with a node exporter, just stand up one of those labs and you could go do any of these commands. There's all kinds of stuff in here. All kinds of stuff. I think that's a really good little cheat sheet to start. Okay. So, aggregations, looking for things, looking for exact matches versus... I always just think of this as the something like. Anytime I see an equals and then a tilde, because that works in Bash, that works in Perl, that works in JavaScript. I don't know, some of you guys that are coders probably know other places. Those are things that I've done professionally, and I know that I can use that, right? But all these other things, it's basic like logic, right? Okay. Selecting data examples. So here's some examples. Return all the time series with metric HTTP request total. Or in our case, we were just doing like CPU, like node CPU and all that. Return all time series with metric HTTP requests with specific labels. So job can be API server, handler can be some API command, and you can get very specific labels. So that's labels, and then that's specific to the dimensions, right? That's what we were calling that. That's their terminology, so we need to know that. You've never seen that, Robodom? I know like some of like the quick and dirty like scripting languages use that to mean something like, or regex, I guess, but same as the above with a 10-minute time range vector. So you can do this same one, but only for the last 10 minutes. So that's square brackets always for time, and curly brackets always for dimensional metrics, right? And then searching for a time series for a job that end with a certain pattern. So this is a job within some, you know, they have server, anything server. And do they give you, do I have a little example here when I made this? Yeah, here's a whole bunch of them here in the Prometheus docs. So the Prometheus docs are also pretty good for a lot of this stuff. All right. Also, I gotta get off here, so I can't stand too much longer, guys. But every one of those queries right here, boom. Every request we've done. Ah, by the way, we're also seeing now, I hadn't seen this before, but now we are seeing the information coming in from 218 API query range. So we're now starting to see var log Prometheus query log fill up with queries about this from Grafana. So that's one of my Grafana instances right there, 218. So we're seeing it querying this, so that's good. And then another thing I wanted to look at. Oh, back to our web server info. Hold on. Yeah, the data's not moving anymore. So soon we will have 30 days worth of data, but it can only happen as fast as it can roll out for the next 15 days. So that is going to slowly get longer for us, because remember we were only saving 15 days by default. Now we're doing 31 days. So it's just going to keep, well, it's not going to technically get longer. The time series is going to slide forward. But all right, how's Ranger doing? He's back on his bed. All right, guys. I'm getting pretty beat here, but I will stop. Oh, it's actually funny. It looks like my closed captioning had stopped there, so I didn't even notice that. Yeah, rates and derivates. So there are many functions that deal with change of the existing values over a set of time. You can use rate, irate, deriv. Those are some of the functions that are out there. And then here's how you can use them. You can get the per second average rate of increase of a time series in a sliding window, right? Irate does the same thing, but it's an instant rate of increase in the time series in the range vector. So it's that time series, but it's the most recent. So if there's an increase right there. And then the deriv needs at least 2 samples within a range vector. and it's designed to show change. It's not real good. If you've got a steady state and you're trying to do a derivative against a steady state, you're not going to get much out of it. But if you have like a fast spike of something somewhere, this will show you that well, right? And it'll catch it. We don't typically report these on dashboards, but it's great for alerting things. If you're used to something being at a steady pressure and then that instantly drops, that's one of these, right? And then here's some querying function. I think I added some other stuff in here. Oh, these are all there's all kinds of functions, guys, depending on how the data is being shared out from the, when you build the client, and we're going to do client stuff in one of the labs. I'm going to build a lab for it. When we show the data out from our client, you can query it, and then you can gather the data up based on, so Prometheus, when it scrapes, will gather the data in the way it's presented, but then you can read the data out and aggregate it based on this. But this does have to align. Like, you can't make a histogram average out of something that wasn't already a histogram. So there's some limits there, right? And we'll work on, so we've been doing the Prometheus, node exporter to Prometheus to Grafana this whole time, right? But then what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up taking the anyways, we're going to do all that, but now we're going to do the Prometheus scraper to a client library of our choosing, and then we're going to present some data. We'll just make some random data over time, and it will just present that data, and then we will pull that out and look at it in Prometheus. So that's going to be the goal of that, is just to verify that these types of things work the way that we kind of expect them to. So I think that will be perfectly acceptable. That'll be a good little project to work on here in the next week or so. All right, so we got all that. Aggregating over time, we can aggregate over a single instance vector, resulting in a new vector of fewer elements with aggregated values. So what that means is, you were looking at something for 10 minutes, you squish it down and you do an average on it. So, you take you guys all know how average works, right? You got 100 instances over the last 10 minutes, you squish them all down, you divide them by the number of instances, and you get an average. So the average temperature was 89 degrees, right? But that's one metric now. You're tracking an average. So it's one new vector of fewer elements with an aggregated value of all the values. So the CPU usage for the last 5 minutes, we can sum by CPU, do a rate of node CPU seconds total, mode when it's not idle, by last 5 minutes times 100. So I can grab this. Let's keep my ink annotations. I'm going to go grab this, because when I made this originally, this was I wanted to be able to grab this right here. So we've been looking at these queries right here in Prometheus, and we can do, before we do any of this, we could just do this like we were doing earlier. And this will give us a lot of data, remember? And it's all the most recent slashes of each of those. But then we could add to that, if you guys remember, just the last 5 minutes, right? So we can query the last 5 minutes and it'll group them on these nodes. But now we want to do something else to this. We want to sum them by CPU when we've looked at the node CPU total, and when it's not in idle, last 5 minutes, we're going to take the rate of that, and then we're going to divide it, we're going to multiply it by 100, and then we're going to sum. So we will get, inside of brace, what did we miss here? Something didn't copy right. Should be not equal. Oh, it is that way. Okay. Not equals, right? Okay. So that's good. That's what we expected. And then not equal to idle. We only want the ones that aren't idle. All right. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Let's. That's coming out of a power. You know, that's coming out of a PowerPoint. So there you go. Anyway, so this has aggregated them all up for me for the last 5 minutes. So now I have some, and this doesn't mean much for me right now, but because it's actually an aggregation of all the systems, so I would probably have to do it also by the dimension of the node, right? So whatever we had for them, probably instance equals, and then we could do like 192. We could do equals like 192, right? Yep. Oops. Oh, asterisk. You need an asterisk on it. Hold on a second here. Really? Yeah, I use these all the time. I don't know why that wouldn't find things. Well, anyways. So there it is. It's still aggregating though, but this is not specifically useful to us, so we might have to split that out another way. But anyways, the point is it's still doing what we expect it to do. It's just not we haven't logically split those out. If you had a HTTP request, which I don't have, you could do that. And then if you need the number of samples ingested per second average on the system as well. All right, so let me pull this back up here. Get this out of the way. Show you guys one other thing real quick before I drop off of here. Inside of Prometheus here, we've been mostly just looking at the graph here, and we've been mostly just looking at the targets to tell if nodes are up or down. Did we not turn those ones back up? We turned them off. We didn't turn them back up, did we? But there we go. Now we know. But over here, there's alerts if you build your alert dashboard out, which will be coming. There's graphs. We saw that. Status, you can have service discovery. How is it finding different services on the different nodes? What are all the targets it's looking for? What are the rules, if there's any rules that have been set? We don't have any. The configuration of this, and we can look at the global configuration of the server so we know how it was set up. And if you guys remember looking at this a second ago, well, it's been a while now, but if I clear this, my cat Etsy Prometheus.yaml, all of these things are not over here. So there are a lot of defaults that are left out. And the reason I bring that up is this. You can see what the system actually sees over here, which is nice. Are there any alert managers configured? No. But what are the defaults that are set, right? Over here. We've got all this stuff going on. All right. All right. What other things? Time series database status. So here's the status inside of this device. And also this same query here I can be pulling out with some other tool to see how the system is handling whatever's going on with it. How many questions, how many metrics it's been getting, all those kind of things, right? I think there's a couple other things I want to show you. Runtime and build information. This is super useful if you're troubleshooting something, knowing how it was built and when it was built. Here's the Go version it was built under. Here's if I have an endpoints for the alert manager, I would have them here, which I'm going to be building those out eventually. Storage retention, only 15 days still it thinks. But I haven't refreshed this in a while. Still thinks it's only 15 days. That might be a problem for me. Look, it doesn't know my storage time series database retention time. That key is unknown, so it ignored it. That's a problem. Glad we went and looked at that. Oh, that's no good. Storage.tsdb .retention.time. I give it 31 days. I think I can give. Let's restart the. Gotta reload the daemon if you're gonna change the config files. That's the rules. Alright, now we're not getting that error. So now we are storing the 30 days. So that was my fault. I should have went in and checked that before, but I did not. Alright. Can you make full-fledged project to show monitoring? Yeah, over on the YouTube side I got asked for monitoring. Yeah, I have quite a bit of monitoring, but I do have 3 labs inside of Killer Coda. So if you go to Killer Coda and you look up our Linux labs, we do have, oh, it's bright. We do have 3 labs here that deal with everything in my home lab. This is hard built, like we're hard digging into Prometheus right now, but there are monitoring of logs with Loki and Promtail. There's Grafana monitoring of telemetry, and that's Prometheus and Node Exporter. And then there's telemetry with Telegraph, InfluxDB, and Grafana. So I have 3 different labs on this. I have a whole YouTube video on it too, which is our monitoring project. I want to say it's like a 3-hour video that just goes over these and shows you how to build a little portfolio that shows how to, you know, get in there and do the lab stuff that you need to. So yeah, and Robodom just linked it there for you guys. So, and we have more on that down the Discord as well for people. All right, guys, I'm getting beat, so I'm gonna go to my little end of stream thing. I appreciate you guys that stuck it out with me. I know people were trying to derail us there this whole time, but not the whole time, but some people were trying to derail us. So I'm going to go do what I do on the internet and mess with them back for a little bit. So that's going to be fun. So I'm going to go find somebody to raid on the Twitch side, on the YouTube side. Sorry, guys, I just got to let you drop, but hopefully I find something good over here on the Twitch side. And then, yeah, I will see most of you guys tomorrow night when I'm hanging out. I don't see anybody on the Twitch side, so we'll just go ahead and drop it here. I appreciate you guys coming by. Go find something else fun to go on. And if you guys aren't in the Discord, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time.